to l'Africa. Points for the King of the Mountains taken by the man already in the blue jersey, Benyat Inchalsti. He's joined in the breakaway by his teammate Giovanni Visconti. Also up there in the break for the pink jersey, you have Sergio Paulinho. The team that was looking to take the pink jersey of Fabio Aru, you've got Diego Rosa. They're joined by two riders from Age de Serra Mondial, Hubert Dupont and Matteo Mataguti. Brent Bookwalter is there. Ilno Zaccarin, already a stage winner there as well. And Francesco Gavazzi of Southeast. 10 men up the road, 72 kilometres to go. So much more to come today, Sean. And of course, for the benefit of our British viewers who've just come and joined us from the tennis, just remind us how hectic it has been today.
Well, it's nothing different from we've been having all this Giro. It's just full-on racing right from the kilometre zero. And today was a day that I was expecting a possibility where we could see a breakaway getting away earlier on in the day. Men who are a long ways down in the general classification, some of the smaller teams, and then race leader would just start tapping out of pace, but it hasn't been the case. As you mentioned, you know, in 2 hours, the first 2 hours, 45 kilometres per hour, and the first hour was just over 48 kilometres per hour. So the racing was really on again today. Just, I think a lot of teams wanted to get into the breakaway, and the ones that were forming in the front, a lot of the teams not happy with them, and just were closed down all the time, and it took, you know, a lot of effort to get into the breakaway. And now we have the 10 men out front, but we can see here, you know, that Contador's team is still continue to make a little bit of pace because of the rider that we have out in the front from Movistar, Visconti. He's at just over 6 minutes, so you know they can't allow to knock back the pace and leave this group get 12 or 15 minutes. So they're securing a nice pace in the front of the bunch, and we can see there the bunch is still quite stretched out. There was a lot of riders in difficulty very early on. I think they're happy just to be back in the bunch at least.
What sort of gap can we expect them to leave them to have today? Because I don't think they'd be adverse to letting the break win the stage if it didn't have too much of a gap.
No, I think you know, they'll probably maybe allowed to go to 5 or 6 minutes, but then you know that will come back in the end, because with the mountain top finish and the penultimate climb, a very difficult one as well. So, and now we're getting, you know, further into the stage. I suppose the advantage is for Tinkoff is that the break went away quite late, so it will not have the time to build up a big advantage. So there should be no problem in keeping it at 5 or 6 minutes. And then in the end, will there be somebody good enough to hold on to go for stage victory out of this breakaway of 10 men?
Lots to still come in week 3. This is the final day of the second week of the Giro d'Italia, the first day in the real mountains, you'd have to say. We're up in the north of the country, and today we've got the only Dolomites climb. Been onto the Dolomite Police this morning, Mr. Daniel Freeb. Many of you will know him as the author of books on mountains, Mountain Higher, Mountain Higher. He's assured me, he's very strict on this, that there's only one single climb in the Dolomites, and that is the final climb today, Madonna di Campiglio. It's climbed again from the other way on Tuesday when we resume racing. They go all the way to the top of the ski resort and over. That's when we go towards Mortirolo, and we've got a huge week coming up. After yesterday and after the first 13 days before that, hectic and crazy days we've had, it was Chin Chin or Cheers Alberto again, wasn't it, in Prosecco country? He dominated his GC rivals, moving back into pink. That's just a single day after he'd lost the Giro leader's jersey, any leader's jersey in a Grand Tour for the first time ever. He'd be more than happy with his performance yesterday, and I think there'll be a few Tour de France rivals pretty worried at what they saw, because it looked as though Alberto Contador, despite the wind change and despite the worst conditions he endured on alongside the rest of the GC contenders towards the end yesterday, he looked like he was to his best in the time trial.
Yes, well, he put up a real strong time trial, and you know, there was that little bit of a doubt in past. He hasn't been performed well in time trialing as around 2 years ago. But yesterday, you know, he put that out of everybody's mind, and that performance yesterday, you know, was a real strong one, well calculated. You know, reading this morning, he was saying that, you know, in the earlier part, he thought maybe he was going a little bit too fast. But you know, the day was a special one as well, because the earlier riders, they had little bit of advantage because the wind, I think, was, you know, not as strong. But again, Contador wasn't thinking of that. He was thinking of the riders who were off close to him, around him. General classification, that's what you have to concentrate when you go out in the time trial yesterday, and that's what he was doing. And you know, what a performance. Aru, a little bit disappointing. I thought he would be a bit better, but you know, he battled quite well and you know, gave it his best. But when Contador's on a big day, on a good day, back to his strong time trialing performances that he can throw in there, well, You know, he's a real good time trialist, and for Arrow to limit that loss yesterday was going to be difficult. You could see in the end, Contador was really, you know, up the hills, and that he was just really, you know, fighting, and he had a real good cadence about him. He wasn't, you know, struggling to get up them little smaller drags in the end, smaller climbs, and just one of the great performances in the time trial that he can put in.
He looked like he was on a great day yesterday, Alberto Contador, it's fair to say. And Vasil Kirienko was a stage winner, the Belarusian Robocop, they call him in Team Sky, or Kitty. First time that a Belarusian had ever won a time trial in a Grand Tour, so that was a milestone for him. Just as the riders using the green zone to get rid of the rubbish, which is always good to see. There is Matteo Tosato on the front, and when in this Giro d'Italia has Matteo Tosato not been on the front? It's been pretty crazy. He's had a fantastic ride, the 41-year-old who celebrated his birthday the other week. Just going back to Contador, though, he only lost 14 seconds on the stage win, and I think the way things had been going when he came back from his ban in the time trial, he would have signed up for that months ago, wouldn't he?
Well, definitely would have signed up months ago. You know, when you look at the performance yesterday and the performance against the other big favourites, because the general classification, there was a lot of men that were expecting to do, you know, a real strong performance, but against the men up there fighting for general classification, Contador a long ways ahead of everybody else.
There'll be interested viewers in the hotel on the top of the mountain in the Canary Islands. Vincenzo Nibali and Chris Froome watching the Giro highlights, I'm sure, in the evenings after their long rides, perhaps talking to each other about the form of Alberto Contador. Michael Matthews says he's having a perfect day, sushi for lunch with his fiancée and watching Nino Schurter on the Mountain Bike World Cup. But look what he's got on in the background. Some Giro d'Italia as well from Bling Matthews. Michael Matthews, who of course climbed off the Giro d'Italia before the time trial. It was always planned, we heard. Sprinters have gone home. Two more did not start today. 177 to the line. Gatto of Androni not started today, and Christophe Van der Walle had a crash and fractured a finger. I'm not sure we need to see that in the meantime. And of course a non-finisher today, Nicola Ruffoni, sprinter 2 from Bardiani. 3 minutes and 17 seconds. It's been a quick lunch, a fast lunch, but it's seen the gap grow. Tosato and company doing the job. Contador on the right hand side, pretty in pink again. As ever, we want to hear from you here on Eurosport and the Home of Cycling. Hashtag Home of Cycling for all your tweets to us, please. Questions for Sean are welcome. And we have some big action on the road ready for you today. There is Konstantin Svitsov, and there's Rigoberto Urán. Still bandaged up from his crash the other day. He'll be a man who had been happy to rise on general classification yesterday, a few places, but not taking back enough time to really make sure he got himself back into the realistic hunt for the pink jersey. Of course, anything can happen in the final few stages, but Rigoberto Urán at 4 minutes 14, he would have expected much better yesterday on the time trial, Sean.
Yes, well, I think, you know, looking at time trials of past last year on the time trial in the Tour of Italy, you know, he was very impressive, and, you know, a lot of people were talking him up for the time trial, but he would not be happy with the performance yesterday. He would like, you know, to be much closer to Contador, for example, because he lost a lot more time, and that's why you would expect him to make time on the time trial. In the mountaintop finishes, he struggles a bit, but unfortunately he was losing time yesterday, and when he should have been gaining it.
We certainly expected Urán and Port up there. Richie Port says he'll continue in the Giro. Team Sky have told Italian television reportedly today that he will try and finish the Giro d'Italia after the plenty of rumours last night that Port was going to get off his bike and try and rest up for the Tour de France, where he's expected to be working for Chris Froome. And we take a look at Lake Toblino in the meantime. Small alpine lake. We're headed to Madonna di Campiglio. We'll talk Marco Pantani. We'll talk 1999 as we go on the way to the Dolomites today. And of course, we'll be looking forward to the rest of the week. Colle delle Finestre, Sestriere, Mortirolo, and all the rest of the mountains. They're going to make these guys' minds tremble before the rest day. Heading to Madonna di Campiglio today. Before we get there, we've got the Passo Doane. Daone, pardon me. It is a first category climb, 8.4 kilometers long, ramps up at 14% as we see the lake of Toblino, heading up from the hills and into the real mountains today. The first time we've had the high mountains on this Giro d'Italia. Marostica to Madonna di Campiglio, 165 kilometers. If you're joining us late, if you've been watching the tennis or out somewhere on a Sunday afternoon, well, it's been a hectic day. The first hour at 48 kilometers per hour, the first 2 hours at 45 kilometers per hour, and this is the virtual standing on the road. Visconti, of course, who's at 6 minutes, is now up at third, given the fact that they have a 3-minute 30 advantage, but don't expect it to stay as big as that towards the end of the day. But it's certainly not beyond the realms of possibility that these guys behind will be very happy to take or let the breakaway take the stage win. The interesting thing, Sean, is A, how Astana are feeling, and B, if Fabio Aru has other ideas, if he wants to try and start the fight back today.
Yes, well, that is going to be an interesting one. As we've seen all through this Giro, Astana, they have been, very strong team-wise. They have, riders up there in the final. There's 3-4 riders all the time in the mountains we've had in the past, but today is a bit different. We're getting up into bigger stuff, and we're, the final climb, we're going up to 1,500 meters, and the penultimate climb is, 1,298 meters. So we're going higher than we have been. The gradient as well is, kicking up a lot. Longer climbs as well. So it's going to be real interesting to see will Astana be as strong as they have been in the first 2 weeks almost of this Giro. And the big question is Aru, how is he feeling after a big time trial like yesterday? If you really have to push yourself to the limit, well, then it takes a bit more time to recover. And I would reckon that Aru will be trying to get an easy day over today, not going the attack. He will just try and stay with the other big favourites and get through today's stage.
Well, in the paper this morning, Fabio Aru, who's 24 now, was saying, well, my eyes are going to be open all day. Doesn't want to lose any more time to Alberto Contador, who conversely may feel it's time to attack, because he was obviously feeling good yesterday, Sean, and why not take advantage of the legs if he still has them today? Well,
I was reading there in some of the interviews, he was saying the best way to defend is to go in the attack, and we all know Contador, if he sees and if he feels that the other challengers are suffering a bit, any little sight of opportunity, he will try and go in the attack, and that's going to be the danger one if Aru is suffering today. And if he loses more time, of course, then for Aru, Astana, morale-wise, they take a little bit of a knock there, and that can be difficult to recover. But if he gets through today and nothing changes, well then, Aru, as we know him, he can, be really dangerous in the mountain, in the big mountain top finishes. So there's a lot of them to come, and there's a lot of opportunities out there for him, but it all depends on the form, how you're feeling.
You said there's a lot to come. In the next 4 big mountain stages, 15, 16, straight after the rest day, then the 19th and 20th stages, 130 kilometers of climbing. 130 kilometers of big mountain climbs. We've got the likes of the Daone today, then Madonna di Campiglio, Tonale, Mortirolo, Aprica climbed twice in one stage as well. Then you've got the San Barthélemy and San Pantaleons. The names get ever so much more French when we go over to the Valle d'Aosta and to Cervinia. And finally, the white roads, the Strade Bianche, if you like, the dust roads of the Colle delle Finestre, all the way well above 2,000 meters. That is the Cima Coppi on this very race on the 20th stage, and Sestriere as well. And you can see the Spanish fans are there as well, supporting Movistar, who've had a very good Giro d'Italia this year, and supporting, of course, the race leader, who is Alberto Contador. Yam Cycling haven't had the greatest of Giros so far on their Giro debut, but with Hausler back in, that suggests that this group has slowed down sufficiently enough to let all the guys, or most of the guys who were dropped early on, back in, Sean.
Yes, well, I think it looks like that everybody have got back in. There were a moment there where they did slow it down. Going to the feed station, we could see there that it was going at a much easier pace. Everybody was happy to take their moussettes, and if you're a little bit off the rear, if you're in the cavalcade of cars, well, then you have to make the effort to get back in there, and it looks like that's the position. The group is... Peloton is very big here, but again, it's hard to make the calculation. Is there some riders not able to make it? I doubt. I think we have got all together here in the peloton.
Contador at the front in the pink jersey. The only time he's won a time trial in a Grand Tour was back in 2009. Beat Fabien Cancellara on that day by just 3 seconds. 40.5 kilometre time trial to Annecy. Big one that day, an even bigger one yesterday, but third and just 14 seconds off the victory of Kirienka was best. And some might say, Sean, as well, if the weather hadn't changed, he may well have won that yesterday.
Yes, well, I think that's certainly if the weather was, equal, and it seemed to be that in the earlier part, the riders out early did not have as much wind, and that had an effect. And when you look at the times as well, I think it does show that the guys out early, they seem to be, a lot of riders, much faster than the general classification men who are out at the end of the day in the evening. So yes, the weather does have an effect, and that's in a big tour. Guys can be starting in an hour and a half to 2 hours before the big favourites start out.
Androin Jacatali with a couple of riders at the back there. Apollonia, the sprinter, the number 12, fighting just to hold the wheel of Mihailov, the Bulgarian champion. In front of him, you've got Sergei Tsvetkov as well. Moldovan-born Romanian rider. Inside 60 k's to go, and looking towards the final few kilometres. It's not too long before we get to the start of the real next climb, the Passo d'Aone. Of course, really starts proper when we get just after the intermediate sprint at 50 kilometres to go. So in 8 k's to go, we've got an intermediate sprint. Of course, the fact that there are 10 men in the break and there's an advantage of 3 minutes and 4 seconds should make it a little calmer in the bunch behind. No bonus seconds.
No, I don't think there'll be too many really challenging for the intermediate sprint anyway, because the sprinters here, we can see they're just about clinging on the rear of the peloton. So it's not like on the flat stages where, the breakaway out front and the sprinters, if there's points to be picked up, well, then it gets a bit aggressive in the 2-3 kilometres before the intermediate sprint. But here, I don't think there's nothing left, because we have a big breakaway
exactly.
Anyway.
If we'd have 1 or 2 men, then there might be a spare second to fight for.
Yes, there would be some time bonuses, but also for the points classification, there will be points on the sprint intermediate point to be taken. But here everything will be calm, and it's just now that the team, as we can see, 3 minutes at the moment, they're not allowing that breakaway to get a big advantage at all, and we know the reason why with Visconti from where we start, one of the men who's a little bit dangerous. That's just over 6 minutes in general classification.
58.2 k's to go. Svitsov and Visconti, and they've decided to take off. Very, very interesting that they're not quite happy at the front of the race. Buchwalder chasing as well, and one of the riders from AG de La Mondiale looked to be Hubert Dupont to me, the number 5. Frenchman rather than the Italian Montaguti who's in there. And this is an interesting move. This man looked good yesterday, Svitsov. Really, really happy in the interview as well. After said it, he quite liked the course, liked the weather, was feeling good at the minute. And of course, he's going to have the freedom now. Sky, no realistic general classification challenge, unless you think that there could be a big recovery for the likes of Leopold Koenig at 5 minutes and 35. Big ash that would be, though, at 10th place. 57 k's to go. Off for a quick commercial break. Back with more Giro on the home of cycling in just a minute. Welcome back to viewers on British Eurosport. Just saying that Visconti had pulled out his earpiece before he attacked. I think he's been told to put it back in now. Perhaps Benyat Chalsti's blue jersey is the primary concern. There is Benyat Chalsti, the Basque rider, in the group behind. And it looks as though they just can't get organised, Sean, here. 4 riders have gone out in the front. Everybody talking to each other. Who's going to do the work now? Nobody is working.
No, we can see there's a big discussion going on here. Well, if you're not going to ride, I'm not going to ride. And, of course, we have the 2 main men, Tinkoff and Astana, Rosa and the Portuguese rider, Paulinho, and they're not going to, carry those guys along. I think they were trying to get an easy ride, get carried along on the rear end of the breakaway, and for that we've seen the attack from Visconti, and he knows that he needs to get out of this thing, get out of this group if the breakaway is going to survive, because if they start looking at each other and trying to get guys to come through, well, then you just lose time very quickly.
Benyat Chalsti talking to the Movistar team director. He might be complaining about his teammate there who took off. He was shaking his head, begging some of the other riders to ride with him. Not happening. In Chalsti, Paulinho, Rosa, Zaccarin, And at this rate and at this speed, it won't be too long before they're back in the peloton. Looking behind, and it's almost as if that's what the riders are waiting for here.
Yes, well, nobody is riding here. You can see they're just slowed up totally, and they're going to get pulled in by the peloton very quickly. But it's still the situation out front. Visconti is the man who was, you know, the closest in general classification. He is the one of the 10 men out we had in front. He was the more danger one. The rest were a long ways off, so it's going to be for Tinkoff. They're going to have continue on riding here, but again, as we have seen there, the time gaps is tiny at the moment. So, but the peloton is going to swallow up the rest of the breakaway, who are just totally stopped on the climb at the moment.
Yeah, a few people noting on Twitter, thanks for getting involved, by the way, hashtag Home of Cycling. It's not really a chasing group, is it? It's more a sit-up and wait group. A few arguments. Intermediate sprint on the way. And then after that, it's all on to the main dish of climbing. Passo d'Aone and then the now infamous Madonna di Campiglio. We've only ever had one previous finish here. Quite a plush ski resort in the Dolomites. Dolomiti di Brenta, for those connoisseurs of the region. And we all know who won last time we were here. Marco Pantani. Win on the road, but just hours later we know that his life would change forever. That high hematocrit test, pardon me, the morning after. Everything would change. We'll talk about that a little more when we get closer to the finish today, but for the minute there are 51 k's to go. Intermediate sprint approaching. Visconti on the left hand side is the danger man in the dark blue of Movistar. 6 minutes and 4 away. It just means now, Sean, that Alberto Contador and everybody else just have to be that little bit more alert, the fact that he's carried on at the front.
Yes, well, they will continue on setting the pace as they have been for a long time. When we had the 10-man breakaway, it was Tinkoff who were setting the pace, and the reason they were setting a stronger pace maybe that we have Visconti out in front, who is a little bit of a concern for general classification, and it's not going to, you know, make a big difference for them. They will just continue on riding. They will catch up to the what's left of the breakaway back the road here, and continue on to this penultimate climb of the day.
But the fact that it's down to 4 now with the intermediate sprint here, again, not really bothering to sprint for the points, as Svitsov's going to come across the line at the Ponte Arche Terme di Comano. The fact that it's now just 4 riders, for you, with 51 k's to go and quite a small advantage, does that reduce quite dramatically the chances that some of these guys have to win the stage?
Yes, it does reduce it, because, you know, when you lose a lot of men, when we had the 10 men in front, that was always a good group if they're working together, but that is the problem. When you get a big group, more than 5 or 6 riders, you often see where riders want to get carried along. They sit on the rear, they're not prepared to do their turn, and they're pulling on the front, do their work as such, and then it starts, you know, a discussion, and that's what we've got here. And now we're down to, you know, a smaller group out front, which will be easier to control, and the advantage they've got at the moment is going to be no panic back for Contador and Tinkoff, because they've always held it. Even when that 10 men were out in front, they kept it under control, never allowing the gap to grow out massively very quickly.
Terme di Comano, where we're going through. Some tourist images for you. Got bears around. When you say the only way that Contador's going to lose the Giro if a bear comes out of the woods when we went off yesterday.
Don't say it. The Commissar's curse.
Everything else has happened in this Giro d'Italia. Deary me. There is Hubert Dupont. Asher de Mondial will be happy to have someone in the break. 4 times in the top 20 in the Giro d'Italia. Goes well in the mountains. 50 k's to go. And almost a whole team there for Alberto Contador. Astana behind. We're waiting now to see who has the legs, who feels good, if anybody does, after the 14 previous days we've had and the hairless time trial yesterday. Aru said in the paper that he will attack only when the legs are good. They're still not riding behind. You can see Stefano Locchio on the top right hand side, the race director, the man who's in charge on the road, the head out the sunroof man. Just waving by all the cars. The peloton are going to catch these guys, and it's been a quiet 10 minutes or so. You can even see that Diego Rosa there in the turquoise jersey for Astana, the Kazakh team, Italian rider from the north of Italy, from Piedmont. He'll be going to his home region towards the end. He's had his jersey already stuffed with bottles and bidons. Same with Paulinho behind, and it's a good opportunity for the team cars to get some free feeding done, if you like. Inchalsti there in the blue jersey, he'll be disappointed, Sean, won't he?
Yes, I think he looks disappointed. You can see there, you know, anytime we've seen him on our screen, he's not happy with the situation. But yeah, when you're 2 men up front, you know, they're always going to control, and you know, one guy goes, and was Visconti, who, you know, I think he started the attack, so he's missing out here maybe a possibility of getting some points for the mountain classification, because it gets into the break, it's always very difficult, and today especially the way they race so fast in the earlier part, to be in there was a big advantage for Inchalsti, but unfortunately things not working out as he would like it to be.
Quite a few of you tweeting in and asking where Sky were and where Richie Porte is. You just had your answers, if on cue. They come to the front of the peloton for the first time today. Bernie Eisel bringing up a few teammates. Richie Porte is down the left-hand side at the minute. Very, very close and on the wheel of Damiano Cunego, former winner of the Giro d'Italia, who still on course for a top 10 is Cunego, 14th at the minute, 7 minutes and 47. Sky, though, already have a man in the break. Konstantin Svitsov. Is this a plan for them to try and get something out of the day? Svitsov, who felt good yesterday, looking for 2 Belarusian wins in consecutive days. That's going to be difficult with the situation in the race. We'll see how it develops when we come back after this. High mountains time on the Giro d'Italia. 3 minutes and 21 for a breakaway of 4. There was a break of 10, but didn't really get on very well. Bit of handbags. Paulinho and Rosa particularly not too pleased to work together. That means that Dupont is out in front now, alongside Brent Bookwalter. With them is Giovanni Visconti and Konstantin Svitsov as well. Team Sky represented Movistar with a man there as well, BMC and Agio Zella Mondiale. There's the Sky rider at the back, Svitsov, the Belarusian rider. Of course, it's been a disappointment for Team Sky so far in terms of general classification, Sean, but they have the red points jersey for Elia Viviani, who is actually level on points on 119 with Giacomo Nizzolo, so that's going to be an interesting fight to see whoever has got the legs to maybe get in a breakaway and nick an early intermediate sprint this week in the mountains, and it will still all be to play for on the final day in Milan. But they've also won 2 stages as well, so it's not been a complete disappointment for Sky, you'd have to say.
No, certainly we cannot say it is a complete disappointment, but for Richie Porte, general classification, you know, it's been a big disappointment for them, and more so for Richie himself, because you know, he went into this Giro, you could say maybe one of his last chances to see if he's capable of winning a big tour, because he is, you know, getting on, and opportunities within Sky as well. We know for the Tour of France, Chris Froome is going to be the man there, so a year missed, and you know, that is a big thing, because to get ready for a Giro, you must remember it's not just the couple of weeks before the Giro, the couple of months before. It takes a lot of planning right from the end of last season, and you know, he was hoping to be a challenge of this race. And the unfortunate thing is, it wasn't physical that he wasn't good enough, it's just that unlucky. And you know, when you get one unlucky hit, then you get another one, that's so difficult to take. And we could see the other day when Contador and Richie Porte crashed, he was just totally, morale was in his shoes. He didn't even try to get to the finish as quickly as possible, and that is, you know, that is a big disappointing of it. If he failed physically, he wasn't good enough, that he wasn't there to match in the time trials and in the mountain days to come, well then, you know, he's done his best. But when you lose out that way, it's very hard to overcome.
Francesco Gavazzi trying to bridge the gap all the way to the break of 4 out the front, doing his best to keep the Southeast logo on the television. Gavazzi, a man for the medium mountains and the harder sprints, let's say. 52 seconds off. Do you think that Richie Porte will ever get a chance to win a Grand Tour, or is he a man who is more adept, just he's better at one-week stage races?
Well, that is the question. You know, he's getting to the point of his career where you know, he's 30 now, so it's you know, a year or 2 more, and if you haven't done it then, well then it's going to be difficult. And again, he's not in a team where he's leader for all those races. He's not going to be leader for the Tour of France, so opportunities don't come that often. Next year, will he go back to the Giro and try it once again? I presume that will be the plan. Or you know,
will he be staying at Sky?
Will
That's
he be in Sky?
as well.
Yes. So you know, a lot of things could change now in the next number of months, but it's not too late. At 30, we all know, like, you know, you can win a big tour up to 34, 35 is still possible, but when you fail on a number of occasions, sometimes then you start doubting, and you have a little bit of doubt in your mind, and the moment you have that, well, it can be difficult to overcome.
He's had a fantastic season so far, as Richie Paul. It is hard to level any criticism at him, really. He's won 3 stage races. He's the Australian time trial champion. He's been the man for Team Sky so far this season. So I feel a little harsh criticising him, and I think it's no doubt that Team Sky will be doing their best to keep him, isn't it?
Well, that is the disappointing thing. He's had a real good season. One of his best. Last year he suffered quite a lot. He wasn't in good shape health-wise, and this year, you know, Paris, Nice, and then you go on from there. You could say, well, this is going to be a real good season for him. And coming into this Giro, we were looking forward to it, as there were a lot of people, you know, looking forward to see what he could do. Could he really challenge to win this tour against an Arrow, against a Contador? But yeah, luck takes him out of that.
Gavazzi at 59 seconds. Looks like he's losing his battle to make sure he bridges the gap. In the meantime, behind, Tinkoff Saxo just changed their pace setter at the front. It's Chris Juul Jensen who takes up now. Still got plenty of men left to set that pace. Don't think it'll be quite the same situation at the top of the next climb. Passo d'Aone is hard. 8.4 kilometres, average of almost 10%, a maximum of 14%. Beautiful, beautiful bits of landscape around here. They don't call it the Bel Paese for nothing. So diverse as well. We've been down the south, only just touched the south. Back in the north, and this is the only incursion into the Dolomites, really. First signs that it's a bit of a fight for position again at the front, Sean.
Yes, we can see there, you know, the team's general classification starting to move about on the front of the peloton, but Tinkoff are really setting a strong pace here, as we can see. You know, 1:0, just over a minute at the moment. It's going to be a bit more than that, but still with 41 kilometres to go, they're really keeping the pace very high and not allowing the breakaway to have any major advantage at all.
Contador looks like he wants to win the Giro today. We'll see when we come back. The start of the climb. 2 Foz category climbs to come in the end of this stage. This is a 4 out of 5 stage for as far as the organisers are concerned. Passo d'Aone up to 1,298 metres. It's 8.4 kilometres long. 775 metres they have to make up. Just hope everybody goes the right way. That's going to be tight. Very, very tight just to get onto it. And you can see, we've seen very much so behind, that there's a lot of fight for position. Here's the evidence again. Manuele Boaro right at the front for Tinkoff Saxo in the fluorescent yellow there. Just behind him, Ivan Rovny. Third place, the pink jersey of Alberto Contador. Lotto Soudal on the right-hand side. It's Adam Hansen doing a good job. In the meantime, this is the breakaway. Straight away onto those big ramps. 10.2%. Svitsov is the Sky rider. Behind him, you've got Giovanni Visconti, the Italian and former Giro stage winner. Alongside them as well, Buchwalter and Hubert Dupont. This is Gavazzi. Time to go and hear from Kenny Elisson, the climber for today, maybe.
Avant-dernier col, le Passo d'Aone.
Passo d'Aone. What can you tell us about it? Well, it's long and hard. I think it's going to make a first selection on all the riders today, and you can't be towards the back. You'll lose the wheels. It's one of the hardest climbs. I think we'll have to wait towards the last climb to see the GC contenders attack, though. What kind of gear we'll be using towards the end? Well, 36.28 for today, I think. I think that's probably the right ratio to have. We could maybe have 34 for Mortirolo, but today it's all about the speed, so 36. Well, interesting from Kenny Elisson. Hasn't had a great Giro so far. He had an absolute nightmare in the time trial yesterday. Elisson's is already at 1 hour and 21 minutes. 63rd position. Really big test already to see who's in the right position here. It had to be fast going into this 180-degree turn, and the ramp starts straight away. It's in fact the first third of this climb where we go up to around 11.3%. The 14% maximum gradient comes exactly halfway through the climb, and already we've seen Brent Buchwalter dropped. Options to stay out there for this team reducing. Dupont, Svitsov and Visconti out front. In the meantime, it was very difficult for those trying to keep everybody safe. Bernie Eisel towards the back, taking the wide route. And this is the leaders' team. Alberto Contador perfectly placed here. Already 10.2%. Well, does Alberto Contador want to finish this Giro d'Italia today? Obviously has good legs. Looking great in the middle there in the pink jersey. Already on the pedals. Dancing around as he does. No sign of that shoulder injury. It put his very presence in the Giro in doubt. And here comes Fabio Aru. No attack surely on this penultimate climb, as Kenny Elissonde was saying. But a selection made nonetheless. And that selection already made from the breakaway as well. Brent Buchwalter dropped. Francesco Gavazzi, in the meantime, is on his way to the Maglia Rosa group. And since they've been on this climb, the breakaway has lost one man, and it's also almost lost a minute. Gavazzi on his way back. Just 3 out there in the break now, with Visconti, Dupont and Svitsov back. 10.4%, 11.6. It rises and get just that little bit more tough. 3 good climbers in the front, though, particularly Svitsov and Dupont. Visconti, we know he's a warrior out there. Blue jersey at the minute on the back of Benyatin Chausti, who was in the original break but is a little further back. Sean Kelly's back from the coffee stop. It's a really hard start to this, and you can see already we're going to have, after 3 hours, that first selection being made.
Yes, and it looks like that Tinkoff are thinking of stage victory here, because the way they're pushing on, I am surprised that they're keeping the pace so high. We can see a mechanical problem there for the one of the front says the Jurelles. They could allow this breakaway, you know, to go 5-6 minutes at least, but they're not allowing that at all, and that tells me, I think, Contador, this stage victory maybe is interesting. Of course, we know there's a lot of history to this mountain here, so as race leader, pink jersey, he wants to maybe have a go for this stage victory. It looks the case the way they're pushing on here.
First attack out the peloton. Guess who it is? Edoardo Zardini, Bardiani rider. So the pace is high. However, Zardini allowed to get out there. He's no danger to those behind. 1 hour 54 minutes behind, and with the pace that Tinkoff are setting here, even if you do have an initial bit of an attack, it's so hard to keep it going.
Well, that is always the problem when you set the pace behind and not allow the breakaway to take 5-6 minutes. Well, then the rider's going to say, well, I can maybe get across on this climb, or when it's around the 2-minute mark, which it is at the moment, you know, you will get guys to go in the attack, but the way Tinkoff are riding here at the moment, for anybody to ride away from the front of the peloton, it's a big ask.
Marcus Berghardt at the back alongside Rick Zabel. Oh, look at these ramps. They haven't got below 10% yet. Said the first third of this climb is the hardest in terms of the average, 11.3%. But the maximum 14% gradient they hit halfway up. Zardini already trying to make the gap and bridge over to Francesco Gavazzi. Gavazzi now just 10 seconds in front of the peloton. What was 3 minutes is down to less than 2 minutes already. Philippe Gilbert dropped as well. On the penultimate climb of the day, the Passo d'Aone, 8.5 kilometers long, very hard. The steepest gradients for consistent number of kilometers that we've had in this Giro d'Italia so far. There is Zardini, Bardiani rider. Bardiani didn't get anybody in the break, by the way, today. Stefano Pirazzi tried early on, could not get there, as we look back to the group of favourites that is slowly being whittled down. There's Rigoberto Urán, the number 61 in the white, black and blue. Colombian rider Richie Porte here. Now then. Not good signs at all for him. Should he be carrying on if he's been dropped here as well?
Well, as we mentioned in the earlier part of our programme, difficult to return from all the bad luck he's been having, and you know, to get the morale back, it's always going to be difficult. We see you know, Richie Porte last year on the Tour of France as well, when he did lose out in the general classification. After that he had difficulty riding to where he's capable of doing, and this is not where Richie Porte is, where he should be in the race. He's not at his best. He will be, very much at the front of the peloton, but it tells me that, the morale is really not good at all, and it takes a long time, and sometimes it's just gets so difficult when you're in this position to continue the race. It can be difficult for a big rider.
With the group of CCC riders there as well. CCC who haven't performed to expectations on GC. Two Astana riders to the front to set the pace now. Cavazzi's taken in. Fabio Aru in the white jersey, second on GC on the wheel of Roman Kreuziger. You see Benetton Chasty in there. So it looks as though the Sky leader for the last week is really going to be Leopold Koenig, doesn't it, the Czech?
Well, I think yesterday after the time trial, when you see the performance of Richie Porte, that was going to be the case, because he was the man in there with a chance of doing something in general classification. If Richie Porte had really put up a big time trial yesterday, then you would say, well, he's got over the bad luck, and now he's back in the race again, and he could start working, moving up the general classification. But yesterday already, and again today, it's not looking good for Richie Porte at all.
Again, Team Sky, I wonder if we'll see them review that decision as to whether he stays in the Giro or not. Certainly if they want him to be at his best for the Tour de France, given the fact that he'd raced 35 days before this Giro, more than any of the general classification contenders that came in. Here's Zardini, still out there at the front, got away from the Tinkoff-Saxo rhythm, trying to chase down the three-man breakaway. Brent Buchwalter has gone from that group. It was four. Dupont remains, as does Visconti. Konstantin Svitsov alongside them. Here we go. Buchwalter now 44 seconds behind the three riders who he was previously riding with. Zardini still at 1:53. And these guys climbing well. Kruijswijk looking good as well on the wheel of Aru. He's in the yellow and black. Good time trial from him yesterday, the Dutchman. Contador ready, second wheel. GC guys are just going to be happy to make the selection though here on this climb.
Well, I think on this climb the GC guys are just going to watch each other and allow the teammates to continue on setting the pace and working at it here. And the final climb of the day, there's lots of time to do something there, because it is a difficult one. It's a long climb. I don't see anybody in general classification having a go, and we can see Astana are prepared, to set the pace here. So that gives me the idea that Aru is feeling okay, because if otherwise they would just allow Tinkoff to continue on and try and get through, but they're pushing on here with Tiralongo.
Well, Alberto Contador came into this climb with a hatful of teammates around him. He has Mick Rogers in front of him at the minute. He has Roman Kreuziger a little further back in the group. You just saw Contador looking round to see where Roman Kreuziger was. The minute it's Astana, very much like in the first week we saw the Giro d'Italia, who have all the teammates to the front. Oh, Rigoberto Urán. Rigoberto Urán still suffering as well. We know that Richie Porte, as well as suffering mentally, has suffered from a knee injury from a crash. We know that Rigoberto Urán has suffered with many different problems in this Giro d'Italia: bronchitis, crashes, lost time, and this is not a good sign for the Colombian.
No, not at all. When you're losing time here on this climb, difficult to see him recovering from this. If you get back in, well, then you're going to pay again on the final climb of the day. And once you show your weaknesses to the other teams as well, and that is probably the reason now that Astana wants to push on, because Urán, he is probably maybe a concern for them in the general classification, although he's further down than Aru. It looks like, as Rigoberto Urán got into difficulty, Astana started to put men in the front and start to push it on a little bit further.
Urán then, again, still struggling with an injury. Just trying to make his way up to the top. Urán and Porte, the big disappointments of this Giro d'Italia so far. Just to see how Zardini's getting on. He's got 300 fans from his home city of Verona waiting for him at 10 kilometres to go from the finish line. He also has Alberto Malesani, who's been the Fiorentina and Parma soccer manager, a fan of his waiting there as well. A huge fan club waiting at 10 kilometres to go for the finish, but with the pace that these guys are setting behind, it will not be easy for the Bardiani man to stay out there. Aru waits. How is he going to be feeling? The fans all dressed in pink. Big day out for everybody, as everybody and every day is at the Giro d'Italia. Three up the top. Visconti there. Ramps a little lighter now. 9.2% is Pelizzotti. Pelizzotti looks like he's being dropped as well. Kirienka in front of him. Franco Pelizzotti, who's been in many a break. No longer a GC man. 54 minutes and 22 seconds down. So we have snow, sheep and polenta on the side of the roads today. Lots of barbecues there. There's some support for the Czech rider Leopold Koenig. Czech flags have been everywhere. It's his teammate Svitsov who's out in the break. Some really, really steep ramps up here. And we have big fans at the Giro every day. But remember, it's a weekend. Everybody on the side of the road. The barbecues have been going as well. Mick Rogers still going for Alberto Contador. Just look at all those men left for Aru and Astana. It's Tita Longo's at the front at the minute. Stage winner already. Mikel Landa still there. Dario Cataldo just behind him as well. Juan Zardini. It's going to be difficult for him to reach that fan club. He's just 15 seconds ahead of this group here. Yonis Aguirre still there. Andre Amador still in the group as well. Amador looking to hold on to the podium spot at the minute. Be happy that he's climbing better than the likes of Port Nouran at the moment as well. Zardini on the top right. Oh, he's about to be caught. It was a valiant effort, and I'm sure the fan club have been cheering him on. 35 Ks to go in the meantime. 12.4%. Remember, it just gets harder and harder to the middle section again at 14% this Passo d'Aone. There you go, long live polenta. Costa Rican fans on the right-hand side of the road there with their national flag. Lots of talk about Andre Amador, and it really is a special performance from him so far. As I said yesterday, his family's flown over. He's front page news and top of the news as well back in Costa Rica at the moment. Who should be front page news? Mick Rogers turned himself into a fantastic mountain domestique over the last few years.
Yes, well, we see it last year in the Tour of France already. He was impressive, and this Giro he's been really, you know, tremendous help to Contador. You know, he is the one who is used in the end, but he has been very efficient and, you know, staying with Contador for a long time, very late into the mountain stages.
Brent Buckwalter drifting back towards the peloton. In the meantime, at the front of the race, they're on the hardest section, 14%. We've already seen Port and Oran dropped, remember. Contador, Aru, Amador, and all the rest waiting in the group behind. Sylvester Schmidt is still there in the orange on the left as well. The man he used to work for, Ivan Basso, isn't. It's funny, you look at the list of Tinkoff Saxo riders, and you would think that Basso would be the last man.
Well, you would be expecting on you know, performances, his climbing ability, but he is you know, a little bit off that pace, but he is doing quite a lot of work in the earlier part, so I think they know that, and he knows that he's not capable of staying with Contador in the later stages, so he's doing his work in the earlier part of the day. And of course, if you do that, well, then you're going to be, you know, in difficulty as you go further into the stage, and your job is done a long ways from the finish.
Heading towards the only climb in the Dolomites in this Giro d'Italia, Madonna di Campiglio. Plenty more to come in week 3 as well. Remember, Colle delle Finestre, Sestriere, mountains that are going to act as the supreme court in the final race verdict. Kruijswijk still climbing with the best, the Dutchman who we've seen in breaks on 2 or 3 occasions already. Second place for him at the end of last week. He's in the yellow, white and black of Lotto NL Jumbo. Leopold Koenig remains there for Team Sky. Nieve still in this group as well. Movistar still with their men around Andre Amador. He's the number 112. Just on the wheel of Koenig. Carlos Betancourt as well. Asher Desert rider, who seems to have been improving as the Giro's gone on. Might not be a bad man to look at for a stage win later in the week. A lot of changes in his life in the last few months. He became a father 3 months ago, did Betancourt. 1 minute and 47 for this break. Conserving a decent enough advantage at the minute, but it's going to be really hard to hold on into the last climb the way that Astana and Tinkoff have been riding behind. Svitsov on the right-hand side. Jersey open, breathing heavily. Same can be said of Dupont. Man who looks the most comfortable at the minute is Visconti.
Yes, Visconti looks very comfortable as Svitsov, but Dupont is suffering there, and he has been suffering for a number of kilometres. We can see there he's really just giving it everything to cling on, and there's still just under 3 kilometres to go to the top of this climb. The advantage 1:45. It's a very slim advantage considering the final climb of the day is going to be such a killer one.
Big moment this for Damiano Cunego. We said that he may be able to do top 10 in the Giro this year. First suggestion that he's maybe losing a wheel or two. Armen Moinard is the man in front of him, the Frenchman who, remember, only rode over to the start of the Giro d'Italia 1 day before he got a late call-up. Mikel Nieve was the last man for Sky there. 1:44 back to the Maglia Rosa group. Brent Buchwald, they lost and dropped, slowly drifting back at 1:17. 33 kilometres remain. Means there are 2.5 kilometres of climbing remaining. Tiralonga doing a good job. A little further back down the road. Jürgen van den Broek is going well, isn't he? Still in this group.
Yes.
Ridden himself into this Giro d'Italia at 4 minutes and 17. 5th place at the minute. Top 5 realistic for him, you'd have to say.
Yes, he is riding well, and yesterday a good time trial. So, you know, he's holding up there well. It'll be interesting today in the final climb, you know, will he be able to stay up there and hold on to that position? But when you look around him, you know, Cataldo, Landa, I don't know if, you know, they're going to be any better on this final climb. The interesting one is there, the leading group of big favourites. Kreuziger doesn't seem to be there. It's Mick Rogers we can see here, but Kreuziger seemed to have slipped out of this group altogether, and he was in 9th place in general classification, and he would be the rider you'd expect to be with Contador right to the very end.
Just looking at this group here, you have all those riders for Astana. Chalsty's there in the blue. Schmid towards the back. Izagirre is there as well. And you're right, no Roman Kreuziger. Polish fans have been out painting the roads for Sylvester Schmid. Good to see. So Contador in danger of becoming a little isolated on the last climb. To be fair to Contador, even when he's been hurt in this Giro d'Italia, that hasn't been a problem for him so far.
No, no, he has defended quite well, but again, when you look at the front of the main peloton here, the number of Astana riders, it's frightening. And for Contador, it's always nice to have, you know, at least 1 or 2 teammates around you. You would expect Kreuziger to be there because he hasn't been working the earlier part. He's the man who is, you know, spared to go through to the very end, or as close to the very end of the stage as possible, as Mick Rogers is as well. But Rogers here, we can see, you know, he is you know, very consistent, having a great Giro here, and still up there on the very front. But Kreuziger is the one surprising to see him missing out this group already. But again, you know, you look at the riders we have lost, you know, Rigoberto Urán, so it just tells, if you're a little bit suffering after the time trial, you haven't recovered fully, you get caught out pretty quickly.
We've had La Frica already. We're halfway up the climb, towards the top of the climb now, of Passo d'Aone. After that, a sharp descent into Pinzolo, an intermediate sprint, and then that final climb to Madonna di Campiglio. Not sure chase is the right description of Brent Bookwalter at the minute. More like slider on his way back to the group on the right-hand side at the bottom of your screens. 32.7 kilometers to go to the finish today, but a long climb to Madonna di Campiglio. In terms of the gradient, it's the climb they're on now that's the hardest of the day. Svitsov looking fairly good. Digging down. Visconti, alongside him, looks as though he might just be on one of those days where we've seen Visconti go on long rides to the finish. It's going to be so difficult though, because Astana have bodies behind. Cunego fighting to hold the wheel alongside Zardini. First Astana man to show a bit of weakness is Dario Cataldo. It's been Tiralongo who's been doing the work at the front, who remains at the front. Cataldo, who disappointed ever so slightly in the time trial yesterday. He's 6th overall at the minute. 4 minutes and 50 from the lead of Alberto Contador, and an important tactical card for Astana to try and keep as high as they can in the general classification. There is Brent Bookwalter, about to be taken in, as Paolo Tiralongo just gets the board flashed in front of his face to tell him the gaps and the differences. Contador again, from the pedals to the seat. Aru not letting him out of his sight. What is the plan for Astana here, Sean?
Well, it looks like they're going to try and make this race as difficult as possible, because you know, Tiralongo is really pushing on. When you see the riders are getting into difficulty, and this group is just getting smaller all the time as we go up this climb. Of course, the gradient is a very difficult climb. You know, we can see, you know, 9.6% and 7.8% where the big favourites are at the moment. So it is a really demanding climb, and it's the most difficult one we've had in this Giro so far, percentage-wise. And to adapt to that is always difficult, but you know, Astana with Tiralongo are not, you know, holding off here. He's pushing on real strong, so that's needs orders from the team to keep the pace really high, and it's going to, you know, be an interesting final here. Are we going to see an attack from some of the Astana riders or from Aru himself? It looks like that Aru is feeling good. You would make that call, because otherwise you wouldn't see them pushing on as much as they have been in the last 3 kilometers already.
Hard work for Dupont here, all over the road as he's trying to hold the wheel. As far as Tiralongo's concerned, he is flying at this Giro d'Italia. Already taken a stage win. Been on the front for a long time towards the end of stages. Interesting to see if he can hang on over the top of this climb or not. Or has he done too much already? Well, there are ways of animating a bike race. He's smiling here almost, this Tiralongo. One of those riders with the great poker faces. Kruijswijk just moves to the left-hand side, has a look around. There's a lot of that going to go on towards the top of this climb, just surveying the damage, and riders trying to assess the situation while they can.
Yes, and to be able to do that on that climb, it tells that a rider is, you know, comfortable enough, because if you're really struggling, as we see Dupont here, he's not looking about. He is just, you know, walking on it and trying to follow the 2 men he's with out in the breakaway, and just clinging on for life, as they say in biking. But Kruijswijk, he is having a real good tour. Of course, he's been in the breakaway on a number of times, and yesterday in the time trial put in a good performance. He's very much up there in general classification, and if you're going into the final week feeling really good, it's a great way to be.
Giovanni Visconti has a bit of a job to do at the top here. He'll want to keep as many points as possible away from other riders with this week coming up, because his team holds the Blue Mountains jersey. Beñat and Chasti at the minute, the king of the mountains. 3 riders to take points, but there will be many points from behind. And Chasti was in this group the last time we looked. Amador is in there. Plenty of bodies in there, in fact, the Spanish team. No, that's a special dress sense, let's say. Back to standard superhero fare now. I'm sure we're going to see the bandanas and the pirate flags. There we go, the first Marco Pantani look-alike. Pink jersey on. 150 metres to the top of this climb. Bidon for Visconti. Svitsov's going to go over, it looks, unless Visconti's going to think about this. Three riders riding together, 75 metres. It is going to be Visconti to go and take the points. Looks as though Svitsov doesn't have a problem with that. Visconti takes the points. It's a first category climb, so maximum points to Giovanni Visconti. Movistar keeping as many as possible in the team. You can see newspapers, pink Gazzetta dello Sport newspapers being handed out for the descent for everybody. Of course, for the guys out the front, a lot of different temperature sensations. We've still got quite a bit of snow up towards the top, Sean, and in the descent, if you've not got time to get a gilet, newspaper's the next best thing, isn't it?
Yes, well, I think the newspaper is the easy one to get. You know, you just take it from a team helper or from the spectators, and you just stuff it up under your jersey, where the gilet is more difficult to get on. It takes a bit more time, and you only need it for the first number of kilometres, so it's easy to get it out again. And it just tells that, you know, the altitude at the moment has to be a little bit cool, otherwise the riders would not be taking it. So but it's always, you know, take precaution.
Dear oh dear, Stefano Pirazzi with a mechanical. Won't be attacking today, Sean.
Well, not a time to have a mechanical exactly where he is. Was he in that leading group with the big favourites? It looks like that he could have been, because with the TV cameras, and we can see Inchausti going for them.
Inchausti on the attack, pardon me. Inchausti looking to mop up those points. Looks behind. He'll still be able to extend his lead. Betancourt coming up behind as well, and Kreiswijk, which just gives you an idea as to their intentions for the rest of this week, Sean.
Yes, well, if you're up there in the classification at the moment, and you can get into the breakaways, well, then the mountain classification for all of those riders we see at the moment, I think they're all thinking of the going for this jersey overall.
Mountain stages left after this as well, as it is. Tiralongo leads them over the top, and this is all that's left. All that remains of this group. There's Mikel Nieve, ever so slightly distanced towards the back, but on the descent, no problem to stay on. So the penultimate climb of the day remains just a descent now, and then the final ascent to Madonna di Campiglio, and all the history that it brings with it. Just less than 30 k's to go on stage 15. 26 k's to go. Three men still out in front. Dupont is the most advanced of that three. Just behind him you have the Movistar rider Giovanni Visconti, and at the back here the Belarusian rider for Team Sky, Konstantin Svitsov. It's narrow, worrying descent. Very, very technical, wet patches on the road, little bits of problems with the road surface, and it looks as though behind, Kreiswijk and Betancourt trying to get involved after 3.5 hours of racing. For the peloton, it's all about getting down safe and just making sure that they can regroup again at the bottom for that final ascent to Madonna di Campiglio.
Yes, well, the general classification meant the men at the very top are going to, you know, try and get down it as safe as possible, and their team mates are going to try and, you know, just take control of the front. And if somebody wants to go off the front with the race situation at the moment, the main thing is, you know, not to panic, not to try and chase somebody like Kreiswijk, for example. You know, if he's going a little bit too fast for your comfort, well, then you just allow him to, you know, go on out there, and you will pick him up later on. But as we can see, because of the technical descent, wet patches, a lot of gaps appearing in the front of what's left of the main peloton.
Exactly what is left of it, because Alberto Contador has just one teammate left. That is Mick Rogers. Astana and Fabio Aru seem to have 4 or 5 men still in the bunch. However, one man who was dropped was Dario Cataldo. Given his abilities, though, you might see him getting back on the descent. That could be him right here with a couple of Tinkoff riders, in fact. 1 minute and 22 from the pink jersey to the breakaway. They won't be worried about that at the minute. Breakaway still losing time on the descent. They've still got a long, long climb to go. The way it's shaping up, though, Sean, it certainly looks as though the stage is going to be won by somebody wanting to win the pink jersey overall.
Well, it's going to be a fight for the stage victory between that group.
Oh, and a mechanical, pardon me, on the way down. Mechanical for Van den Broek. Looks as though he's sorted out, maybe just dropped his chain there.
Well, he could have went a bit wide there because we could see that he was just starting to get moving again, so maybe he went a little bit too wide.
And he's not the only man. You're right, Sean, he's not the only man. Mick Rogers there. In fact, it's Roman Kreuziger. Look at Darwin Atapuma. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Darwin Atapuma down. Looks as though he's back on his bike. He's going to be okay. But you can see the radio reporter there. Very, very quick. It's Roman Kreuziger was caught out. Darwin Atapuma was with him. And Van den Broek, perhaps one of the first riders to just about escape it there.
Yes, I think Van den Broek was also in the same corner, getting cut out. And we did not see exactly, did he, go over the barrier. I think he just had to, really knock his speed off, and maybe went into the grass area. But it was a very tight one. We could see there with the leaders, with Visconti going down. It was a one which you could see was a very, very tight one. I'm not surprised some riders getting cut out.
Well, it's a good job for Alberto Contador. It wasn't Mick Rogers there, because he would have had an extra bit of worry to get on. It was Roman Kreuziger who was dropped from the group just before the top. Looks as though everybody's safe and sound now, which is good news. Here was the problem again. There was Rogers. Look at how that ended up for Atapuma. And you see what's there. You can see it's a man who's already had awful, awful things happen in the last few weeks. Then he's had crashes, and you can see it could have been a heck of a lot worse.
Yes, and you can see the motorbike there. That should not be there. The motorbike stopping there, it makes it more dangerous for the riders. Everybody, you come around the corner, you're having difficulty to make it. The motorbike is parked there. It just adds to the danger.
Darwin Atapuma back on his bike, safe and sound, thankfully. And yeah, I think we may hear about that in the race communique tomorrow. They've been quite strict. We saw strict with a mechanical incident for Richie Port, and obviously as well, very, very strict on a few of driver infringements that we saw. In fact, the driver who was following Carlos Betancourt yesterday was given a fine and reported to the race direction. Contador on his own here at the front. Aru has 4 teammates around him. Leopold Koenig is there. Betancourt as well with Kruiswijk. Andre Amador here as well. Now, if he can compete with the best here, that will really send a message to Team Movistar HQ. Benyat and Chausti. Looking around, see if I can see Mick Rogers towards the back. There is one rider from Tinkoff Saxo. Wondering whether that's the man who was involved in the crash a minute ago. Roman Kreuziger. Zeitz at the front now for Astana. Just behind him, Tiralongo. 23 Ks to go. The final climb begins at Pinzolo. Intermediate sprint there. Interesting to get time gaps all the way to the breakaway. Amador still in this group. What is clear, though, Sean, is that Contador's been isolated.
Yes, we cannot see a Tinkoff rider there, so it'll be interesting to see how far off they are. We can see riders are in between here. The Astana riders, Tiralongo, have a look about there to see what the situation is, and they are the ones in the driving seat at the moment, because they have the numbers here, and they're going to have to try and push on here. But Contador on the final climb, of course, he is riding so well, he shouldn't have any difficulty. But again, it's concerning times, because if you have a mechanical, and that is the question, the team cars are a long ways off, because we did see in that descent a lot of gaps there, so it's going to take a bit of time before the team cars make it back up to the group of favourites.
Well, at the minute it's Contador versus Astana behind. 55 seconds for these guys. Sky might be better positioned than you think as well, with Svitsov up there at the front. I wonder if he's anything left to use for his man behind Koenig. In the meantime, another man perhaps affected by the crash was Igor Anton. Just getting medicated by the car there.
And here we can see Rogers and the teammate of Contador, who you would be expecting to be up here, Kreuziger. So they're quite a bit down, because they're just in front of the team cars, and we can see Astana are just really up on the pace now. They know there's an opportunity here with 5 of Astana, 4 including Aru, of course.
Koenig right on the wheel there. Looks good. Contador on his own. Betancourt is there as well. Moinard looks to be there for BMC. You've got Kruijswijk, André Amador, who for me is the sensation of this Giro d'Italia so far. Van der Broek there as well. Yuri Trofimov, who's at 7 minutes and 1 second in 13th place. And the rider from Francis Desjeux will be Alexandre Geniez. I'm pretty sure about that. Caruso maybe for BMC as well. Certainly on performance he should be there. Bidon to take for Konstantin Svitsov. Wonder if he's taken one for his teammate who's coming up behind as well. So these guys, Sean, not going to win the stage today.
No, it's not looking that way. With the way Astana are pulling on at the moment, they're really driving on, and 44 seconds advantage. We could see Sitsov there taking 2 bottles at this distance from the finish. You don't need that. He's thinking of his teammate coming up, and a very good way to do it, because on the descent he knows that the team car is not able to get near him, so he's stocking up for his teammate.
Leopold Koenig behind. We're heading to Pinzolo and the final climb of the day. Contador in pink. Svitsov back from the break. He's given a bidon and some food to Leopold Koenig. Settles into this group of favourites. Damiano Caruso there for BMC. Andre Zeitz doing a huge turn on the front for Astana. Just 1 man out still in the breakaway. That's Hubert Dupont of AG Dosera Mondial. But 13 seconds as we're heading towards the final climb of the day, the climb to Madonna di Campiglio. And this place remains an open wound in Italian cycling. We're back to the place of Marco Pantani's fall from grace. Another Giro, another dramatic parcours. The race entering the northern Italian mountains for the first time in this now 98th edition. We're returning to the site of one of the most difficult 24 hours in the history of the sport on these shores. There's Alexandre Geniez at the back. Composition of this group with Betancourt, Kanga, Rosa, Aru, Landa, Tiralongo. 5 of those men for Astana, with Caruso, Monfort, Amador. Third remember overall, Geniez, Visconti and Trofimov, with Kruijswijk, Svitsov, Koenig, the top rider for Sky, and the leader of the race, Alberto Contador. I'll think back to 1999, Sean. Pantani sprinting up the mountain into the sun-kissed ski resort. It destroyed all of his rivals, leaving behind the likes of Jalabert, Buena all around the mountain, Gibo Simoni, who's actually here today. Contador takes a final bidon, well inside 20 Ks to go. But of course, Ivan Gotti was there that day as well. He'd eventually be proclaimed winner on that 99 Giro. Pantani excluded the following morning for a high hematocrit level. The image of a distraught, lost and damaged Pantani left the hotel. This man watching on back then, one of his idols. The Giro wouldn't be the same, cycling wouldn't, and neither would Pantani after that. The sad spiral of events would come to a head 4.5 years later when he was found dead in a Rimini hotel room. Seems a long time ago now, 16 years, Sean, we're back again, but it was one of those days that cycling fans will remember forever.
Well, I think it will be something all cycling fans will remember forever. Unfortunately, for Pantani, it was the start of, of the bad times, and something he never recovered from. That is certain. And when we see, the performance he put up there, it will, live on forever in the history of cycling.
Yeah, of course, and I know quite obvious that a lot of people at home who perhaps don't get the image of Pantani and what he means to Italian cycling will say, well, why are you wasting time talking about a doper? Yes, of course, his performances were chemically enhanced, but so are a lot of others at those times. Doesn't make it right. However, to these Italians, it is so important to convey what the man means to them. They still regard him as a hero. 20-odd thousand people turned out for his funeral. And yes, you can certainly pick apart what he did and say that was right, that was wrong. But of course the memory of Pantani lives on in this part of the world. 16.2 Ks to go. 18 seconds now for Dupont. Intermediate sprint time. And we're about to begin that final climb. Interesting with the intermediate sprint here, Sean, because there are bonus seconds available, 3, 2 and 1.
Yes, it will be interesting to see, will the the man at the top of the general classification, but when you look at Contador, the advantage he has over Aru, or Aru has to make up on Contador, I don't think they will really start trying to get something out of this, making a sprint here. They will all they'll be all thinking now of the final climb and see what they can do. Can they take some time from each other on the final climb of the day? The interesting one is we see Contador's team car coming up there and giving them a bottle.
And here we go. On Contador, pardon me, is going for the seconds. Contador is going for the seconds. Sorry, Sean, but Contador in pink darts out, and he's got 2 extra seconds of a lead.
Chapeau to do that after Astana riding for the last number of kilometres. In Contador's position, you would expect, or you would be, thinking that, well, he'll just, sit tight here for the moment and just follow the Astana riders and lead them make the pace and not go for these, minor seconds available here, considering the advantage he has. But that is Contador. We've seen him, when he's in a real strong position, he's capable of going in the attack at any time, and that's what makes him the big champion he is.
2 minutes and 30 of a lead now for Alberto Contador, back to Fabio Aru. This is the moment he darted out. Should Astana have been able to let that happen with the pace they were setting?
Well, I think Astana were expecting Contador just to sit and follow, but with Contador, he is always prepared to throw a surprise, and I think the Astana riders were surprised to see him going for the time bonifications that were left. You can see there the Astana rider tried to follow him, but just a little bit too late, and he had 2 bike lengths ahead.
Tanel can get picking up the bonus second for him as well. He's now 15 minutes and 50 behind. As Visconti not happy about something. Out the way. That was Diego Rosa who was in front of him in the early breakaway with him. Here's Hubert Dupont in the meantime. Thanks for all your comments on Twitter, by the way. Hashtag Home of Cycling. Understand some of you not happy that we mentioned Marco Pantani, but I'm afraid he was there. It happened. And of course, important to relay exactly what Pantani means, certainly to these locals. As I said, understand a lot of you will not hold him in the same regard, and that's fine as well.
We've just seen the group of chasers there, reckoned, 25 seconds maybe down. We can see the 2 Tinkoff men, Mick Rogers and sorry, the name. Kreuziger, yes, trying to make contact with a number of other riders, but we can see again Astana just continuing on to set the pace, a real strong pace at the front with 14.5 to go. Advantage, 15 seconds, so it's going to be a battle between some of the men in the general classification for the stage victory again today.
Is it going to be a big moment for Carlos Betancourt? Colombian fans up there towards the finish. We're on the final climb now to Madonna di Campiglio. It's 15.5 kilometers long. It has an average of 5.9%, but ramps up to 12% in the final 2-3 kilometers. This is how we stand going into the final climb today. 2 minutes and 30 of a lead now for Contador, who's picked up 2 bonus seconds but remains isolated by an Astana team who look, Sean, to be trying to set it all the way up for Fabio Aru. Andrea Amador, 3rd at the minute, still in this group behind. Ten seconds for Hubert Dupont. It's all over for him. And it's all together in the group of favourites behind. Remember, Richie Porte dropped on the penultimate climb today, out of contention. Rigoberto Urán also dropped on the penultimate climb today, out of contention. Different groups on the road. This is the back of the front group on the top right. And you can see the guys desperate to try and get back in. Ryder Huisdahl leading them. Jürgen van den Broek as well, who was affected by that crash on the way down. Basso is there as well with Kreuziger. Mick Rogers as well. Now this is an image from the last climb, because Mick Rogers is still here in this shot. The current climb, I can assure you that Alberto Contador is all alone. Confirmation of the vital statistics of this Madonna di Campiglio climb. It's quite a plush ski resort, is Madonna di Campiglio. All the way up to 1,700 metres. Who's going to win today? Remember, tweet to us, hashtag home of cycling. And again, all your tweets on Marco Pantani just suggesting exactly what we're saying. Opinion split right down the middle. Of course, we're trying to stay as close to the middle as we can with that. There's Basso at the front. Good to see him a little further into the stage. His former Lieutenant Schmid in the orange on the left-hand side as well. Disappointment today for Van den Broek, though.
Yes, disappointment, and you know, really up there in the general classification, 5th, so he is going to be in danger of slipping down the general classification. And you know, a number of other riders as well. Iran, of course, we see Cataldo, Kreuziger. So you look at Leopold Koenig, who was down in 10th place. He's going to make a good move up in general classification. Visconti also, he's still up there. He was in 12th. Trofimov, he's still in that group of Contador and the big favourites. So those riders are going to start moving up if they can hold on. Van den Broek is, you know, is the one who is setting the pace here. The advantage, you know, will they be good enough to hold up there? I mean, Visconti, he's been out there for a long time, so it's going to be a difficult one for him to stay with the leaders, but there is definitely some of the riders here will move up further in general classification. I think Koenig is the one, for me, could make a good leap forward in GC.
Looking really good, Leopold Koenig. Still has Svitsov as well towards the back of this group. There's Ryder Huisdahl, by the way, trying his best to make the junction. Always a fighter. Always a fighter on the roads, as Ryder Huisdahl. He's lost time at important moments. One thing we've seen him in breaks, though, he has not given up since the word go.
No, he's always prepared to have a go, and in this race he's, you know, been out there on a number of breaks away, giving a big effort, but not gaining a lot of time. But again, he won't always prepare to fight right to the end.
Fabio Aru, 21, waits. Contador, perfectly positioned right at the back of this group. Koenig is still there. Looks as though he may have lost Svitsov from this group. Again, the image you're seeing here is from the penultimate climb of the day. That's done and dusted. Zeitz and Kanga have been working so hard. It's Zeitz on the front at the minute. Just behind him, you can see already a stage winner at this Giro, Paolo Tiralongo. On the right-hand side with his jersey unzipped is Tanel Kangat, the Estonian. Just behind him, Fabio Aru. And you also have Mikel Landa. Amador, Movistar jersey, just in conversation with Caruso there. Say the pace this time, surprised there can be conversations, Sean. Looking really good, though, for the Costa Rican. Kruijswijk looking good. Visconti still in the group too, and Trofimov is going to end up being the best man on GC, I think, for Katusha. Svitsov still right at the back of the group. Ryder Huisdahl at 1 minute and 4. A valiant effort to try and limit any time damage. .4 Ks to go. The ramps fairly similar for the first 10 kilometers of this climb. It's a 6.4% average for the first 10 Ks. So it's certainly not otherworldly, is it, Sean? It's not something particularly special. It's what's come before and all the Giro we've had up to now that could make the difference in the legs.
Yes, it's a combination of, you know, fatigue, weather conditions, but when you're going at the pace that Astana are pushing at the moment on the front of the group here, well, then it's going to hurt everybody, because they're really, you know, keeping the pace very high. So it's not always the percentage, unless it's, you know, 18-20%, then it gets really difficult. But it's the speed on the final climb and what you've been through already in this race that can be where it really hits riders. And we can see here some riders are having difficulty staying here, other riders seem comfortable. Amador there, he came up and he was speaking with Caruso. He seemed to be very relaxed, actually, and, you know, very comfortable at the moment. So that is a good sign. Where there's other riders, I think, they're just hanging here. We can see Dupont here, who is just clinging on, and he has been doing a lot of that today.
Dupont then losing that wheel at the back as the fan from the United States of America waves the stars and stripes proudly. Pink jerseyed up as well next to them. Aru would certainly love to be back in pink in Milan a week today. It's going to take a big effort. He is 2 minutes and 30 down. Again, the signs and the shrines to Pantani on this mountain too. 6.4% of a gradient. The fact that Astana have so many men up here, it's absolutely incredible, isn't it?
Well, we've seen it right from the beginning of this Giro. They have, you know, numbers. When it gets to a difficult point in the race, they always have, you know, lots of riders out front. But it'll be interesting to see, you know, Aru, can he really finish it off? And that is always the problem. Aru, looking at him there, he's been looking around a bit when we see the last shots of him there. Is he that comfortable? I'm not too sure. And against a Contador, you know, he can allow some of the riders, if they want to, you know, put riders in the attack, like a Tia Longo, for example. If he goes in the attack, well, Contador doesn't have to worry about that. He has just, Aru really is the one to keep control over, and the other riders in general classification, of course. You know, if an Amador goes in the attack, for example, well, then he will have to react also. But he hasn't a huge task here to, you know, there's a lot of riders who were in the general classification who are a bit further down the road here. So for Contador, tactically, it's not a difficult situation, and if you're good, then it becomes an easier one.
Composition of the group just flashing on your screen there. Alberto Contador in pink is the man to look out for. So is the man 2 wheels in front of him in white. Contador versus Astana and Aru at the moment. Clouds developing high into the Dolomites. Dolomiti di Brenta, for those of you that know the area. There's differences between the loose term Dolomites geographically and the actual mountains themselves. One rider to go for Astana. Looks as though that will be Zeitz with all the work he's been doing. And it's Tia Longo who takes it up again. And this is the man that rode the entire last climb. He's at the front once more, and he's looking mightily good. Once more, you just look at Contador, though, and you get the feeling that it's going to be so hard to beat him. Giovanni Visconti still on the back. Just in front of him, it's the man from Lotto Sudal 107. Maxime Montfort is at 6 minutes and 1 second. Looks as though if he stays with this group any longer, he may be riding himself into the top 10. Aru on the right-hand side, just over 10 kilometres to go. The first 10 kilometres of this climb, of which 5 remain, are at 6.4%. Then we have a couple of kilometres at 2.8%. It's almost a false flat before it begins again and gets a little steeper towards the end. There's that ramp at 14%. The way things are going, Sean, Aru is going to still have to put a very special performance in to attack Alberto Contador, because the way that Contador's been looking the last few days, you can see that ramp of 12% coming up, a couple of kilometres from the finish, and it's hard not to see Contador just taking off and gaining time on Aru again. Something's going to have to change in how it's gone so far.
Well, that's what you would be expecting Contador to, you know, dominate in the final kilometres of this one, but it depends on how he's feeling after his effort yesterday. Maybe, you know, he can be still having some effects of that very, you know, difficult time trial, but everybody has had the time trial yesterday, and we've heard in some of the interviews everybody has started this race at the same time, so they've all been through the same. It's all about, you know, how well you're recovering, and as we know, Contador, he is a real, you know, champion for long stage racing, and normally you would expect Contador to be very strong in the final of this one. But the way Astana are riding, you know, is Aru feeling good? That is the question at the moment. But then there's other riders as well. There's surely going to be an attack from some of the riders further down in the general classification who are in this group. Kreuzweg, for example, is Amador capable of going in the attack? Caruso is also here. There's a number of riders. Koning, of course, he's a bit further down. If he goes in the attack, well, Contador doesn't have to start chasing him immediately, because it's the riders who are in danger of losing their place in general classification will have start chasing. So Contador, as we know, tactically he's a very good one. So for me, he's in a real good position at the moment, because the way Astana are having to ride, they're just eliminating their men slowly, and we still have just 10 kilometres to go, so it's a long way to this finish.
6.6% the gradient at the moment, and we're going to get a look at the final kilometre here, Sean. Not the most difficult that we're going to have this week. Gradient of around 7%. But again, it's all about the tired legs, how you deal with it. Narrow roads, as you can see. One hairpin as we were coming into that final kilometre.
and the narrow roads is not going to be a problem because there will be very few men together.
Exactly.
So there will be lots of room, as we can see. The hairpins, you know, they won't be going at that rate. It's not like a flat finish where it becomes more of a danger. So this finish is, you know, it's a good finish. But if you're clinging on already 5 or 6 kilometres out, well then this is going to really hurt. And if you're good, you're the one who can dish out the hurt.
Who will be dishing out the hurt? We're about to find out. Keep it home of cycling here, and we want to hear from you on Twitter. Thanks for all your interactions today. It's been brilliant reading all your questions and opinions. Hashtag home of cycling on Twitter. Less than 10 kilometres to go now on this stage 15 to Madonna di Campiglio of the 98th Giro d'Italia. And remember, as far as the mountains are concerned, we're in the Dolomites today, but this is only the beginning. When we come back after the rest day, we've got that Mortirolo day, Aprica, another huge day. The last time we were in Aprica, it was Ivan Basso who won, and he won the Giro d'Italia when he took the pink jersey off of the shoulders of David Arroyo a few years ago. Then we've got a brief transition stage into Switzerland to Lugano. After that, Verbania too. We have Cervinia, we have Sestria, so much to come. And I said we're in the Brenta Dolomites, the only Dolomitic group in this part of the world. Left-hand side, Dupont, caught by Hejda. There you go, 16 years, don't take away a legend. The latest banner to Marco Pantani. Contador. Aru behind, jersey slightly unzipped, radio still there. Koenig has put in a really good ride today. Start of the day in 10th place, 5 minutes and 35 from Contador. Contador, remember, has picked up bonus seconds, so he's at 5:37. Aru now at 2 minutes 30. He promised to fight back in the newspaper today. He said he will attack when he has the legs. His team are riding as if he does have the legs. We're about to find out if that is the case. Tiralongo working really hard here. Caruso still there as well. Great Giro d'Italia at the BMC's going. Visconti still hanging on. Geniez riding himself up towards top 10 too. Geniez 16th at the minute with a few places to catch up. Montfort, Amador, Kruijswijk, Visconti, Trofimov is the man from Russia, and Katusha. In the meantime, Svitsov has been dropped. Contador on the pedals again, watched all the way by Aru. Another man goes for Astana, down to 2 in front of Aru now. Tiralongo, what a ride from him today.
It's he's having an amazing Giro.
37 years of age as well.
Yes, we've seen him, you know, in the earlier part of the race. The moment it starts to kick up, and of course he won his stage. He was out there in front and he was allowed to have a go and got his stage victory. But you know, he is really in super shape, and the way he's been riding today, we did see him on the penultimate mountain where he was, you know, on the front, and he's been in the front there for the best part of 3 kilometres.
Richie Port, by the way, 8 minutes behind this group. Stage 15, we're on our way to Madonna di Campiglio. Famous for skiing, holidays, motor racing, and of course that fateful day 16 years ago. The start of the fall from grace of Marco Pantani. Won the stage on the day in pink. We all know what happened next. The man in pink today is Alberto Contador, winner of the Giro d'Italia in 2008 without winning a stage. He won it on the road in 2011, but then had it taken away from him following that clenbuterol test the year before in the Tour de France. He is riding fantastically well here in 2015. Fabio Aru behind him, just 24 years of age. The first Sardinian, all very briefly, for just 1 day to lead the Giro d'Italia. Lost that jersey as Geniez now is fighting to hold on. Maxime Montfort has been dropped one by one, Sean. They're being dropped by this rhythm from Astana, but this rhythm will be useless if Fabio Aru cannot hold his performance at the end.
Yes, well, it will be a lot of work for nothing if they cannot, you know, get something out of it, and Aru is the one who has to try and do something here. Is he capable of doing it? After doing that, they cannot allow the stage victory to get away from him, but Contador, who's the one, is in control and setting the pace at the moment.
Contador again onto the pedals. Aru's just going to come around him as Contador looks, checks the state of his rival. Landa able to stay with them both. A little bit of a conversation, little word from Contador to Aru. Looks round as well. What's being said here? 700 meters to go. Contador out onto the pedals again. Little bit of an acceleration. 4 hours, 20 minutes of riding. Trofimov looking good here. Trofimov looking good for the stage. Astana, after doing all that work, the least they could want is a stage win, Sean.
Amazing that Landa's not trying something here, because they've done so much work and allowing, you know, the stage victory to slip away. But again, will you have enough to hold on?
And here goes Landa, pardon me, here goes Landa, realising that it's slipping away, goes past that Spanish flag there as Landa attacks with Contador to follow behind on him at the moment. Landa is going to catch Trofimov. It's going to be heartbreak for the Russian rider as Landa goes around him, and in the middle there's no reaction from Contador and Aru. Mikel Landa wants a stage win. Astana look for a second win. Contador waits for Aru to go. Remember, 2.5 minutes of an advantage for Contador over Aru. He can afford to watch, he can afford to wait, and it looks as though it's going to be Mikel Landa who enters the final tunnel in the lead. Trofimov in the red and white, with Aru behind, Contador there, and the top two on GC riding to the finish together at the minute. Landa there then, at the front. Mikel Landa, who was so good in the Giro del Trentino, second overall in the end to Richie Porte. Aru with the first attack from behind, and remember there are bonus seconds available. It's going to be Mikel Landa. Astana, for all the work they've done, are finally going to get that stage, it seems. Landa has to hold on for the final 100 metres. Contador and Aru in the meantime, though, fighting for bonus seconds behind. It's going to be Landa who takes the win. A huge one for Astana. They controlled the stage all day. They will get it, and in the end, Contador, stronger in third place than Aru, will take bonus seconds. Aru cannot add to that. And Contador picks up a 3-second bonus on the day to Fabio Aru. The day does belong to Astana, however, unable to shed a very, very tough Alberto Contador, who increases his lead at Madonna di Campiglio. In the meantime, it's a good end of the second week too for Steven Kruijswijk and André Amador. They approach the final few hundred metres as well. Kruijswijk is going to rise on general classification. Amador should just about hold on to his third place at this rate as well. A really, really good ride from these guys, but it's been so fast, it's been so furious. We finished well ahead of the time schedule put on by the organisers. It's Leopold Koenig who's put in a decent ride today. The day belonging to Astana, however, it's so difficult to see anybody deposing Alberto Contador.
Yes, well, we could see there in the end, you know, he was marking the rider that he had to mark, and that was Aru. We could see the discussion went on there between Contador and Aru. I think Contador was saying, well, if you want to get the stage victory, you guys have to ride for it. And it looked like Trofimov was going to steal a march there, but the difficult couple of 100 metres, Landa had that bit left to just take the stage victory. But Contador proving once again, the race leader, the pink jersey, he's the strongest, and just distancing Aru in the final.
He's already warming down. Spinning class has started for Alberto Contador. Looks happy. Job well done. Not worried in the slightest. He is firmly in charge of the Giro d'Italia. Alexandre Geniez is going to finish 1 minute and 47 down. But a big day. In the end, it wasn't quite the big battle to the finale that we were all expecting towards the end, but quite simply, Sean, there weren't enough riders left for that.
Well, I think after the difficult stage, everybody was suffering in the end, and we could see there, you know, the big favourites that were left there in that 7 or 8 man group, 9 man group. Everybody was really suffering in the end, and they left it quite late before they went in to attack each other. And not surprising after such a difficult race right the way through. Time trial yesterday, of course, there's still marks of that in the riders' legs.
Former winner of the Giro d'Italia has put in a great fight today. He's going to get a big cheer, Ryder Hagedal, when he comes across the line. The Canadian made a dart to try and bridge the gap. It would prove to be unsuccessful, and he's going to lose more time today. However, he's going to possibly rise up the overall general classification. A lot of guys will have lost time again today. We thought Richie Port's day yesterday had been bad. He was dropped very early today, as was Rigoberto Urán. No sign of him towards the finish either yet. It is Ryder Hagestad who's going to finish ahead of those guys, albeit 3 minutes down, but a courageous ride from the Canadian nonetheless. 2012 winner, 3 minutes and 12 down. Paolo Tiralongo alongside Giovanni Visconti. Two Italians, Tiralongo already winning a stage, doing a great job, and Astana's second stage win of this Giro, Sean, will have a lot down in part to the great work that we saw from Tiralongo.
Yes, and the other teammates as well. They did a fabulous job again today, as they have been doing all through this race. Very powerful as a team, as a block, and at least they've got the stage victory out today. And with the amount of work they've done, I was afraid they were going to allow the stage to slip away from them. But the disappointing one for Astana, I think, is that Aru not able to challenge or to take any time from Contador on this stage today after the huge amount of work they put in.
Aru needs the rest day, very much so. Needs the rest day, and I think it showed in the end. Unable to challenge Contador, and from Contador I think we saw a masterclass in defending the jersey under pressure, didn't we?
Yes, I think he is really good at that, and when you're as strong as Contador showed in that final there, when Landa went in the attack a number of kilometres out, Contador reacted immediately. He didn't have to do that because Landa's a long ways off in general classification, but he was the one who was closing down Landa, so that just tells that he is really in super shape.
Carlos Betancourt will be looking for victory another day. Almost 5 minutes down today. The winner on the day, Landa. Contador stays in pink. Yam Cycling. There's still Sylvester Schmidt on the left-hand side. Jonas Aguirre might be disappointed. Some big gaps again today because of everybody getting dropped on that penultimate climb so early. There's Mikel Landa's win. Mikel Nieve coming across the line. There's Jonas Aguirre as well. Monsalve from Venezuela is the rider from Southeast across the line as well. So it's like Roman Kreuziger. He'll be disappointed today. Stayed with them for a long time, and of course Contador looks in control here, but in terms of their power and different tactical cards to play, Kreuziger coming in at 5 minutes and 40 down. It's not an ideal tactical card to play anymore. No,
well, Kreuziger, you would expect him to be up there, with Contador on that final climb at least, because he hadn't been, doing the working for the pink jersey in the early part of the stage. But again, I think the time trial yesterday, fatigue, telling his toll.
Mikel Landa wins the stage in 4 hours and 22 minutes with Yuri Trofimov 2 seconds behind. Contador coming in third, picking up bonus seconds as well, picking up another second on Fabio Aru, extending his lead after that victory as well in the intermediate sprint. The winner on the day, though, is Mikel Landa.
Have been very strong from the very beginning. 2 stage wins for you now, but this personally for you must be a fantastic experience.
Yes, we have a very good team in the climbs, and today for us start the best part of the Giro, I think.
So what are your expectations as a team from this point onwards? You've got your stage wins, Aru still in second place overall. Are you content now with what you've achieved?
Our objective is finishing with Aru at the best place we can. We want to finish in the first position with him, but it's difficult, no? I think we have the second place with him assegurated, and we will try winning the Giro, playing with the superiority of the teammates.
Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks.
Mikel Landa confirming that the plan will remain the same, to try and break Alberto Contador. In the meantime, one man who has been broken today is Rigoberto Urán. 7.5 minutes down. Formolo as well. Cunego there too. It's been a really hard day. Urán struggling, suffering, not where you like to see him. And one thing is pretty certain, it's not going to be a third successive podium finish for Rigoberto Urán.
No, and I think we see the forced cracks yesterday, the time trial where you would have expected him to do a performance. Not looking good at all, not recovered, and you know, losing a stack of time here today.
Not a good day for Uran, but tactics clear from Astana to try and put Contador under pressure. Mikel Landa then ready to receive his prize. Winner of the stage at Madonna di Campiglio, an historic location. And as well as Marco Pantani, we now have Mikel Landa as a winner in Madonna di Campiglio. Top stuff from Astana today. They rode fantastically well. Even better from Mikel Landa, who was allowed to take the stage. But it's Alberto Contador who leads the Giro d'Italia by 2 minutes and 35 seconds now from Fabio Aru. A 7-second advantage on the day for Contador. Amador remains in third, Landa fourth, Koenig fifth now, with Trofimov, Caruso, Monfort, Visconti and Geniez making up the top 10. So Contador leading the Giro d'Italia after the end of week 2. Mikel Landa taking win number 4 of his professional career. He won in the Basque Country earlier on this year. He's won on the Giro d'Italia, and we're about to go and find out exactly what the boys think of it at the finish line. Juan Antonio Fletcher and Ashley House waiting for you as Contador holds on to the pink jersey.
In association with the Israel Ministry of Tourism.
First class cycling with Alpecin caffeine shampoo. First class cycling with Alpecin caffeine shampoo.
Hello, welcome back to Giro Extra, where we've just witnessed the 25-year-old Spaniard Mikel Landa of Team Astana take his first Grand Tour victory, and he did it right as expected, where the attacks came on that final steep section of this ride up to Madonna di Campiglio. Explain to us, tell us how impressive Mikel Landa was for you today.
Well, Mikel Landa was, I think, the key guy today in Astana team. He was, in my opinion, the last man on preparing Aru's attack, but Aru's attack never came. I mean, I think Aru today was struggling a little bit. He was able to sit there, but not to make those attacks and to go on the attack and try to drop Alberto. So Mikel showed that he was stronger, and he made that attack at the village at 3Ks to go. And then afterwards, he went for the victory, chasing down Trofimov, which was just got dropped, coming back on the little downhill. And that's what Mikel Landa did. He went strong on the last kilometer, chase Trofimov back and go for the victory.
Mikel Landa second on stage 8 to Campitello Matese, first today on the stage to Madonna di Campiglio.
Mikel Landa, the Basque rider, just 25 now. First ever win came in the Vuelta a Burgos in 2011 when he was riding for Euskaltel Euskadi. In his second year at Astana now. Has won previously in Italy, stage 2 Monte Bondone, this time last year a super win to the Giro del Trentino. That ridiculously hard stage he won in the Tour of the Basque Country, his home tour. Probably the standout win until now, that no doubt eclipsed by this on a Grand Tour on the Giro d'Italia. So a fourth win for Mikel Landa in his career, and the way he's been riding. You would not be surprised if he picks up a hatful more. He's been superb in this Giro so far. He's given the bubbly to spray. Also awarded a special T-shirt commemorating 100 years since Italy entered the First World War. Simple message of remember on the front of it. But it's the champagne moment now for Mikel Landa. Astana got the stage they were looking for, their second win of this Giro, This one for Mikel Landa.
So it's a stage win for Team Astana, but it's Alberto Contador who not only keeps the pink jersey, but actually increases his lead over Fabio Aru to 2 minutes and 35 seconds by gaining the bonus seconds, both by finishing third at the end and also mid-stage as well. Juan Antonio, the commentators referred to a masterclass in defending the pink jersey from Alberto today. How much did he have to defend it, and do you agree, was it a masterclass in that?
Well, probably I would say it was masterclass in the moment, probably when he went on taking that bonus. But I think that was not really, I mean, he just, I mean, it's not that easy, but he obviously, it's not easy being isolated how he was, and so many guys from Astana there, and having probably the anxious on maybe waiting for that attack from Aru and then have to answer, but it just didn't happen. I mean, Aru attack didn't happen. And if it did happen, it was not that hard. So that's what I'm saying. It was easier than something from masterclass. We didn't see such a battle today. We will see something more coming in the next week. But of course, it's been a superb performance from Astana. They got the stage victory, and also they managed to isolate Alberto, which is not an easy thing, of course.
Not an easy thing. They have done it on several stages, of course. They've done it again, but it's Alberto Contador who keeps that maglia rosa.
Another day in pink then for Alberto Contador. Shower changed. He was at his spinning class about a minute after he crossed the line. Very, very comfortable, very happy, already talking to people, nodding his head, smiling. It's been a good day for him. Extended his lead as well. He now leads by 2 minutes and 35 over Fabio Aru. Andrei Amador, the surprise performer of this Giro, still up there, just over 4 minutes in third place. It's good news for him. Confirmation of a very, very good Giro for the Costa Rican, but it's all about the man from Pinto, just outside of Madrid. Goes into the second rest day as he went into the first. This time a lot happier, in a lot less pain, and looking a lot more comfortable on the overall general classification. This was a week where there weren't supposed to be many differences, but he leads by over 2.5 minutes.
So Alberto Contador isolated but still in pink. At one point there were 5 Astana riders and just Alberto. Why do you think Astana rode the way they did today at such pace?
I think today the main goal was going for the stage win. They were not that focused on the GC. Maybe they were trying to prepare that attack from Fabio Aru in the real final, but they were still having that goal and winning the stage, and they succeeded on that goal. They got the stage, and that was the reason why probably they were racing that hard. Maybe not that much on isolate Alberto, because I think the only reason if they want to isolate Alberto is prepare the attack to Aru, but the attack of Aru is depending on how Aru's legs are, and today he didn't show those good legs that he been showing the first week. It's been a hard first week due to bad weather, rain, and he's still a young rider. He still probably needs some more years to be better. And we have to remember, Alberto Contador is the best rider out there in the Grand Tours.
Yeah, best Grand Tour rider of his generation. Absolutely no mistake about that. Richie Porte and Rigoberto Urán both were dropped off the back of the group today. Let's hear now from Leopold Koenig, who was the first Team Sky rider to finish.
With the Czech rider Leopold Koenig. Leopold, yesterday after the time trial, you didn't know exactly what would have been your new role. Now, can you say that you are the leader of the Team Sky for the next week?
Yeah, I think from the result today, yeah, we already spoke with the team yesterday that it's another priority, and we changed the plans, and I'm really happy that it worked out today, that I didn't just got dropped, and I'm just humbled getting every second back from the stupid crash and stupid 2-minute loss. So I'm just hoping it's not going to be difference in Milano, 2 minutes in a GC.
But for today, you know what's happened with Richie? No legs, just that?
I don't know. Maybe no legs, maybe no motivation, maybe. I don't really know. If to ask him.
Okay, thank you very much.
Interesting words from Leopold Koenig, and we'll speak more about Team Sky in a moment. But first of all, let's hear from today's stage winner with Juan Antonio. Mikel Landa is here.
Mikel Landa, zorionak, felicidades.
Congratulations,
enhorabuena por esta magnífica victoria. Se te ha visto primero, sobre todo, preparar ese ataque que nosotros esperábamos de Fabio Aro en Madonna di Campiglio en el pueblo. No ha habido ese ataque, Alberto te ha seguido y luego los voluntarios conseguido la victoria. Tú que estabas entre los hombres más fuertes de Astana.
Sí, hemos intentado pues sorprender con mi ataque, ¿no? A ver si Alberto me dejaba coger unos metros para luego rematar con Aru, ¿no? Pero bueno, se ha visto que Alberto quería también pelear por la etapa. Nos hemos quedado ahí los tres y éramos superioridad. Estamos en superioridad, ¿no? Éramos dos. No podíamos dejar escaparse esta victoria. Ha llegado Trofimov también. Bueno, ese último kilómetro ha sido un poco nervioso, pero finalmente pues, arrancado con fuerza. Yo creo que Alberto pues, no ha podido o ha vigilado un poquito más a Fabio. Y esa la ventaja que he cogido, pues yo creo que ha sido ya irrecuperable.
Muchas gracias, Mikel, que sigáis así de fuertes todo el equipo y dando el espectáculo que estáis dando.
Gracias.
Thank you, and we hope you continue to give that.
So Mikel Landa takes the stage victory, talking a little bit about Team Astana's tactics, of course, today. Let's now see his teammate and team leader, Fabio Aru, receive the white jersey once again.
Fabio Aru onto the podium to receive white. Perhaps not as happy as he would have been if he'd have been a little bit closer to the pink. But still up there, and his Sardinian flans still there with their island's flag as well. Not too much of a doubt over who's going to take the white jersey home. If Aru stays on his bike and stays competing, he has more than a 6-minute lead over Davide Formolo. He too will be given a commemorative T-shirt. Oh, he's got to be told to come back and get it first. Aru remains the best young rider.
So Fabio Aru stays in white, Alberto Contador, of course, staying in pink. Who needs the rest day more, Fabio or Alberto?
Both of them, of course. I mean, I think situations are way different. I think Alberto is showing that strength also because he's got that advantage, and he showed that relief yesterday after that time trial. He is kind of more relaxed. He kind of controlled better and managed better the situations. But they're both tired. I mean, they've been a super hard week. A week that normally they were not expecting that hard, but you know, you can't predict the weather sometimes. The weather's been cold, it's been rainy, a lot of wet, and the riders, they need that rest. Everybody needs a good rest tomorrow. Probably Aru will improve better after the rest day because he's been showing, especially today, not that strength that he was showing on the first week. But yeah, we'll see.
The next stage on Tuesday is to Africa. Ivan Basso won there last time, of course. Talk to us about how important that is, because that's another very, very tough high mountain stage.
If I have to pick up two stages, that's one of them. That's Africa stage, and I would say Cervinia, but that will come later on. So Africa stage, it's got Mortirolo, Passo Tonale. They got so many climbs. I really think that after the race, there's so many guys will try to go on their breakaway. There will be a lot of attacks, and I think of that just need to control, not big groups go up the road. So we will see. It's going to be very interesting to watch because the Mortirolo there before Africa is going to be very demanding for the race, for the riders. Sorry.
Indeed. It's great to see behind us, by the way. We're here just behind the podium. You can see Fabio Aru congratulating his teammate, Mikel Landa. There does, of course, seem to be that teamwork that we've talked about still within the Astana team.
Yeah, teamwork. I mean, the problem I think that Astana really, they had to win the stage today, and sometimes certain situations with Trofimov there, with Alberto so strong, you cannot. With Astana probably today they really wanted to win with Aru. He deserves that victory. He's the leader of the team, but sometimes it's not up. I mean, the situations change, and Landa was showing better performance today. It's an honest winner. I mean, today I think we had a very honest winner here in Madonna di Campiglio.
Absolutely, and Astana receiving their team award on the podium at the moment. A word about Rigoberto Urán. He's lost more than 8 minutes today, so he and Richie Porte not days for them.
Not days for them. I mean, with Rigoberto, we're all the time saying one day he's having a good day, another day not that good. So he's keeping his level. I mean, but yeah, he's still far back on GC. We have to make a good remark on Andrei Amador, who's up there on GC. He's showing that he's solid there. And Richie Porte, we read this morning that he's suffering from a knee on that crash in Jesolo, so he still probably needs to recover. He's really needing that rest day tomorrow, Ashley, and hopefully we see Richie Porte having a better third and last week of this Giro d'Italia.
Okay, let's see for the profile of Tuesday. It's a rest day tomorrow, of course, and then on Tuesday it's a next high mountain stage.
So from the rest day to Tuesday, stage 16, the big one, Mortirolo here, 5-star stage, a very high mountain stage, Pinzolo, and we return to Aprica, which will bring great memories back for Ivan Basso. A final loop around from the Mortirolo to Aprica, 2 climbs into Aprica itself, the final one after a very, very fast descent from the Mortirolo.
So that's your stage profile for Tuesday. It is going to be another classy and important stage in this Giro d'Italia. We talked about Andrea Amador as well, and the commentator saying for them, he's the sensation of this Giro.
It is a sensation. It's nothing. It's a guy it's a rider that's improving year by year. He's coming from Costa Rica, not a well-known cycling country for Europe, but he's probably the best Costa Rican so far, and he already won a stage in the Giro d'Italia, and his first Giro d'Italia he's been showing in the classics like in Wevelgem, and so it's quite a all-around rider who can time trial very well, who can climb very well, so we need to think about him more probably.
We've already said Alberto Contador, the best GC jersey defender of his generation. He's now 2 minutes and 35 seconds ahead. Is this Giro over?
Nah, I think it's too early to say it. I mean, this Giro is having a great champion, a strong rider wearing on his shoulder the leader pink jersey. We cannot say it's over because Astana is the strongest team. They're there, even if Fabio Aro, he probably needs to show more next week, but there's not much they can do. They are doing everything. I mean, probably change the strategy a little bit. We talked that on the previous show, but they can win the stages, and that's what they are doing. And you never can say it's over.
Okay, great. Well, it's not over yet, but this man is still in pink, of course. Alberto Contador is here. Hola, Alberto, gracias otra vez, and Juan Antonio is with him.
Alberto, gracias. Enhorabuena, otro día más en rosa, otro día más.
Another day in pink, Alberto.
Una cosa, se ha visto un poco que Astana preparaba ese ataque.
You could see Astana preparing that attack, but of course you couldn't see Aro attacking.
Bueno, yo creo en un momento me ha parecido que iban a contrarreloj por equipos.
I think that at one time it felt like it was a team time trial.
Pero bueno, bien. A ver,
but anyway, it went well.
Más rápido no se podía, mucho más rápido no se podía ir.
I could say that we couldn't really go much more fast than we were going because it was a crazy rhythm.
Cuando empezaran los ataques se seleccionaría.
I knew that when the attacks began,
eran dos corredores.
It would be maybe 2 riders. Landa was there, he's strong. It was quite complicated to control it, but I think I looked after Aru and thinking about the general classification, and of course there's still quite a long way to go in the Giro, and you can't just look after everything at once. Of course, we saw you wanting to win the stage, but it was difficult, and of course perhaps, like you said, just not letting them win the stage, but you were thinking more of Fabio Aru. Mikel Landa won. You got to take my hat off to him. He beat me. I didn't let anybody win. But of course, yeah, I had to think about Fabio Aru. No worries about that. And of course in the general classification. Thank you, and have a great rest day tomorrow.
So Alberto Contador giving a chapeau to Mikel Landa. We should give one to Alberto as well. And one to you for joining us too. We'll see you again on Tuesday. Juan Antonio, thank you. We've got 1 week left of this extraordinary Giro d'Italia. Don't miss next week.
And we'll be with you, Sean Kelly, me, Rob Hatch, right the way through to the end to Milan. Next appointment is on Tuesday, 2:15 in the afternoon in Central Europe. If you're watching on British Eurosport, that is at 1:15 from Pinzolo to Aprica, and that is at 174 kilometres stage in length. Stage 16 it is, more mountains, the mighty Mortirolo. Contador, can he hold on to the pink? Over 2.5 minutes of an advantage. 6 more days to go, and on Sunday in Milan, it'll be one of these two who takes on the pink jersey. Can Aru bounce back? Big rest day for him. From Sean, me, and everyone in the team. We see you on Tuesday. For now, goodbye. Lunchtime in the United Kingdom and
First class cycling with Alpecin caffeine shampoo.
The Brits have been a roaring success overseas this season.
It might have been Haslam's by a whisker.
It's a double for Ray. Now World Superbikes is coming home. Don't miss the Battle of Britain. Round 6 from Donington Park. Next weekend, live on British Eurosport 2 HD.
Join Sky TV today and get a free Samsung Galaxy Tab 4 when you join online, giving you another great way to watch your favourite shows. Pick the Sky TV bundle that's perfect for you and enjoy captivating drama with the new series of Penny Dreadful, only on Sky Atlantic. Plus, watch shows from up to the last 30 days with Catch-Up TV. So get a free Samsung Galaxy Tab 4 when you join Sky Bundles with Sky Atlantic, Catch-Up TV and a free Sky Plus HD box, all from £21.50 a month. Search Sky Bundles or call 0800 151 2806. Sky. Believe in better.
Your car could be taken at any moment, and there's not a lot you can do about it. You may have paid good money for it, but that doesn't mean it's yours. 1 in 4 cars checked by HPI is still on finance. Buy one of these, and you're buying someone else's debt. You could lose your car and your money. Don't risk it. Check it now at hpicheck.com.
It's a big world. Get out there. Renault Capture. Capture life.
There's money. And there's Virgin money. To keep track of. There's money and there's Virgin money.
Watchshop.com. There's nowhere else quite like it. Hundreds of designer brands, brilliant savings, and next day delivery or click and collect. For the perfect watch, it's watchshop.com. Every time.
For so long, he's been the master.
The king of play wins his 9th French Open.
But this year, there are those looking to paint a different picture.
Djokovic supercharged. Another huge win in the career of Andy Murray. Stunning. Well played, monsieur.
Join our exclusive team for all their expert opinion and analysis. The French Open starts next Sunday, 9:30 a.m. live on British Eurosport HD. Also available online via the Eurosport player.
How about that?
Round 3 of the British Cycling Elite Road Series brings us to the edge of Salisbury Plain. The last outing, the Tour of the Reservoir, made Rolling Stone monoliths over hundreds of miles seem an appealing alternative.
These conditions are fatiguing.
The snow is falling. We are in April and it is absolutely freezing.
I've never been so cold in my life.
Yes, those Druids thought they had it bad. Well, welcome to Wiltshire. It seems as though the wind has followed us here, but hopefully we'll at least have a leader's jersey not covered up by a rain mac. The red race mark jersey is the property of Steve Lampier of Rally GAC. A strong showing at the Chorley Grand Prix was followed by another podium beside the reservoir. So how are you feeling about today's course? Will it suit you?
It's a race that brings a lot of riders into contention, because the parkour is not horrific, but it's still, you know, after 175k, it's still quite a hard race. But that being said, you know, we've got a team who, you know, we can do well. Morgan Kaniski for the sprint. Last year, I led Marcin Biablocki out for the win and still finished 9th myself. So, you know, it's possible to get a high place and with working for your team. So it's pretty good for us.
And of course, ever since we've been starting this Spring Cup, you've been chasing that first place, getting second every time.
Don't talk to me about that. I know it's just maybe a monkey on my back, but yeah, hopefully, like myself or a teammate win today, that'd be you know, a big feather in their cap. So all good.
The British Cycling Elite Road Series features the very best teams and riders from the UK scene. 11 teams race for individual and team honours over 8 events. There's 2 blocks of racing, the Spring Cup, which ends here, and the Grand Prix Series later in the summer. Riders are awarded points at each race. The higher the finishing position, the more points, and quite simply, the overall winner after the 8 races will be the Elite Series champion. One of the teams with high hopes of that is NFTO. Well, Dave, it's all going off. Tell us a bit about the big announcement last week.
Yeah, obviously coming into Tour de Yorkshire, we're very proud to announce a partnership with Aberdeen Asset Management. It's a 3-year deal with making the step to Pro Continental for 2016. So,
fantastic.
yeah.
So this means big plans then for next season.
Oh yeah, the headaches have started already. Yeah, don't worry about that. Yeah.
And of course, talking of headaches, poor old Eddie Dunbar. He was going for it. He was going strong. He was one of your lead riders, and then the Tour de Yorkshire, broken collarbone.
Yeah, really sad actually, because the guy was feeling really, really great. He is a little legend. Yeah, he was going really well. When the brake was getting caught, he decided to clip off and try and extend that, you know, prolong it himself. And the pace on that particular descent was obviously a little high. I think actually it was the only sort of wet bit of road for pretty much all the morning. Luckily we got him operated on Wednesday. He's nipped back to Ireland to catch up with some family and friends, and he'll be on the bike probably from this weekend, I'd have thought.
Dunbar lies second overall for now. Third is Eric Rousel. His big sister Jo won a stage at the Reservoir before he went one better, winning the men's race overall. The Madison Genesis rider is starting to make a name for himself.
Tour of Reservoir was a fantastic race for us. The Madison Genesis boys rode extremely well for me. Obviously I got in the break the first day, took the win there, and then we managed to defend it really well on the second stage.
And of course the next thing was the Tour de Yorkshire, and you were the highest placed British rider. I mean, that's fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah, that was another great race for us. I managed to finish in the top 10 overall, which was first British rider as well, so we've got to be happy with that. And we had someone in the breakaway every day, so we went there and done our job, which was to get involved in the race and show ourselves, so we're all really pleased with that. Yeah, all the time, yeah. We don't often go out training together because we just try and kick each other's heads in, so she often, the first couple of hours, she often has it over me, but then I come through at the end, so. But yeah, it's nice to ride with her when we get the opportunity to. First bike was just a hand-me-down BMX from a family that lived behind us, I think, and I remember my dad taking me in the park and trying to teach me how to ride for the first time without stabilisers, and said, if you manage to do it, I'll buy you a present, and I wanted to skateboard straight away, so had a bike and then got straight on the skateboard instead. I've had a few nasty crashes. I've broken my spine twice and collarbone once. Collarbone's probably the worst. That needed a few operations to sort it out, but apart from those 3 crashes, nothing too bad, you know, just the usual scrapes and bruises, so I think I've been quite lucky. A couple of years ago, 2012, I won a stage of the Tour Normandy, and that probably stands out as one of the biggest wins. I had a few years where I was just there helping other people, a bit of a domestique role, so to win a race for myself was fantastic, and that set me off and set the ball rolling. The worst habits, it's got to be Mark McNally, I think. Just his accent. makes me laugh every time. But yeah, he's a bit of a funny character, but he's a good lad.
The Cycle Wiltshire Grand Prix is 173 kilometres long. The riders roll out from Salisbury before the flag drops at Wilton. They complete 5 circuits, taking in Burkham, Fovant, Broad Chalk and Bishopstone. Key climbs are at Fovant Down and Windwhistle. That's followed by 4 smaller loops between Wilton and Burkham.
3, 2, 1.
Let's join our commentators now, Anthony McCrossan and Matt Stevens.
The peloton rolling out from the front of Salisbury Guildhall, and a great crowd greeting the British riders. Getting set now as a race past Salisbury Cathedral, a tremendous landmark in this area.
Yeah, nice gentle rollout. Last year we started the race in Wilton. A bit of a change of scenery. A couple of miles neutral before the action really begins. We've got 2 big laps to be covered on 5 occasions, and then some smaller laps in the finish. Quite a flat, fast finishing circuits, but the big climb of Fovant Down is the main obstacle of the day.
So the race starts 11:10 in the morning as we get underway, and the first little flourishes of attacks coming from One Pro Cycling.
Yeah, that looks like the Welshman John Mould had a fantastic season last year for NFTO, but has come across to the fledgling One Pro Cycling squad, and there's the leader of the Spring Cup Series, Steve Lampier.
Steve Lampier, well, he's in the red Race Smart jersey. He could win the Spring Cup today. There's no Eddie Dunbar, of course, broke his collarbone in the Tour of Yorkshire, but Rousel or McNally would have to finish in the top 4 here, and Lampier not score at all for him to lose that lead.
You know, Steve Lampier had a tremendous ride in the Tour de Yorkshire. That was an absolutely wonderful event, but it was good to see the British riders to the fore, making all the attacks, and obviously some good form coming off the back of that race.
Well, it was 3 days of very, very tough racing. So Veloshore at the front in the red and black on the left-hand side. Now Lampier just pushing on through a little, and a small breakaway forming at the front. Looks like Rousel is tracking Lampier very, very closely today.
Yeah, right there, Anthony, because Rousel is the only rider that could usurp Steve Lampier from the lead in the Spring Cup today.
Onto the climb of Fovant Down. Matt, you know this is really, really tough. The camera doesn't show how the gradient of this climb. It's strength sapping, and it roars up, and the crowd at the top always greeting the riders with real passion.
Yeah, it's a really, really hard climb. It pitches up just near the top at gradients topping out at around 15%, making it a really long haul. And remember, the riders have to cover this on 5 occasions, and there's King of the Mountains points available at the top of here as well.
On the front of this peloton then, right-hand side is Will Bjergfeldt in the blue and lime green. Rousel climbing well. He finished 8th in the Tour of Yorkshire, which is a tremendous rider, top British rider. And on the left-hand side, Dan Fleeman.
Yeah, Dan Fleeman, a very, very good climber indeed. It's bobbing around on the left-hand side. Here's a view from the back of the group. That's Richard Handley. He's one of the riders who had a fine performance, top 10 on the general classifications in the Tour of Yorkshire as well. So he's clearly on very, very good form.
Well, these riders will be riding road races now, and of course they then go into the Tour Series, so they've got to transform the way they ride into being able to ride crit races over the next few weeks, as Ian Bibby, the winner of the Chorley Grand Prix, makes his way to that front group.
And the rider on the front there is Dan Fleeman from the Sport Grub team in that green and blue kit. A remarkably strong hill climber, a former national hill climb champion, and spent a year with Cervelo test team on the continent, so very, very experienced indeed.
He also won, Matt, the Tour of the Pyrenees, which got him his ride in the Cervelo test team. So he really is a rider who loves the climbs. He's lean and he's powerful. Sitting not too far back, though, Steve Lampier. You have to admire his consistency in this series. 2 second places in the 2 events we've had so far.
He'll certainly be looking for a win, but I think in this race in particular, looking to conserve the leader's red jersey. And look at him climbing very well, still sat in the saddle while Fleeman bobs around in a more distinctive freestyle.
Well, you've said before, Steve Lampier is a rider who's got better and better every single year, and last year on the tumble in the Tour of Britain he was a very, very good finisher on the climb. So Fleeman pressing on a little bit, the flag's fluttering quite a lot, so shows it's